Class of 2018 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So before we get started, obviously somebody is missing, and I want to acknowledge that right at the get-go. Howard Finkel is unable to appear here tonight, and I'm very sorry for that. Howard and I usually share these responsibilities as MCs, co-MCs, co-hosts, if you will, every Hall of Fame, and unfortunately something came up. Howard is unable to be here, so if it's all right with you guys, I'm going to do the whole thing myself. Is that all right? That is the response I was hoping to get. By the way, my name is Rich Palladino. Hello, how's everybody doing? And I want to welcome all the fellow Hall of Famers. If you guys don't mind standing up, waving, do whatever you want. You are not a Hall of Famer yet, young man. You have got to start training. Yeah, you right there. Yes, you are not a Hall of Famer. But a big round of applause for all of our Hall of Famers that are in the crowd tonight. Ron Zombie. I can't mention everybody's name, but guys, these are the guys that paved the way for the stars of today. So this is a great time for all of us to get together without a show being run, without backstage politics, without anything else. Just all of us to get together and honor the class of 2018. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome a fellow New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer from the class of 2011. Would you please welcome the Professor Tom Burke.
Thank you very much, Rich. I have been asked once again to take a few moments of your time to remember those women and men who wrestled, who are no longer with us. We have a lengthy list due to this is the first time we've had this gathering in 3 years, so kindly bear with me. In the year 2016, we lost Mario Milano, Gentleman Ed Francis, Frenchie Martin, El Mongo, Outlaw Don Bass, Moose Morowski, Lord Littlebrook, Gene Antone, Danny Miller, Billy Wicks, Blackjack Mulligan, Ruth Lake, a former girl wrestler who was also inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame here about 2011 as well. Iron Mike Sharp, the Mongolian Mauler, Bob Leonard. In the year 2017, we lost Tom Zink, Tokyo Joe, Burhead Jones, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, Lance Russell, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Buddy Wolf, Ivan Koloff, Smith Hart, Rotten Ron Starr, George the Animal Steele, Mr. Pogo, Outlaw Ron Bass, Reverend Dave Jackson, Matt Rosianoia, and the great historian of all times, J. Michael Kenyon. As we come to this year, 2018, we lost Bruno Sammartino, Paul Jones, Luscious Johnny Valiant, Diane Von Hoffman, Whipper Philly Watson Jr., Nick Big Bully Busick, Johnny Mercedes, Bull Miller, Buddha Khan, and the oldest professional wrestler up to the date, 93-year-old Prince Neef Maivia. All praise be yours, my Lord, through Sister Death, says St. Francis, for whose embrace no mortal can escape. Let us take a moment of silence and remember all those who have passed. Thank you.
Would you please welcome a member of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2010, the Extreme Enforcer, Paul Richard.
Hello, everyone. Hot in here. Man. I just want to talk to everybody briefly. Some of you know, some of you don't know, but I'll start in 2010. Well, my last concussion was in 1996. 2010, my whole body froze, and I couldn't move for 45 seconds. I was rushed to the hospital. I was there for 3 days. They said I had severe concussion syndrome, take an aspirin every day and come back every year and have it checked out. I didn't go. Since 2010, my life has collapsed. Up to a year and a half ago, I was homeless. I couldn't find a job. And my primary doctor sent me to go get all the tests over again. And I was stubborn. I'm like, this is just what happens when you're in the business. I only had 9 concussions and never had a match. So I'm like, I know people who've had hundreds of concussions. So went in, they checked it all out. I met with a doctor and he said, I'm very sorry. I've never met anybody like you before. You have CTE. And he says, it's a terminal brain injury with no cure. I have no idea what to tell you. You're the first person I've met with this. Maybe go to Boston. I don't know what to do. So I reached out through Sheldon Goldberg to Chris Nowinski, and now I'm with his partner at the CTE Center, Dr. Robert Cantu is my doctor. I'm on experimental medication, and I feel better than I've felt in 20 years. It's so funny as I see a lot of you I haven't seen for years. Everybody's like, you look so great. You look in the best shape of your life. I've lost 60 pounds in a year because I can't work out anymore. One of the symptoms of CTE is you're off balance to one side or the other. I'm off balance on the left side. So I can't lift or do anything because I can just drop something at any minute. So I changed my diet, stopped working out, and I lost all the fat I've had for all these years that I could never lose, you know? So I just appreciate Joe having me speak today just to talk to you guys. I've already talked to a few people here tonight, and a lot of people don't know this has been going on for almost 2 years, but now's the time because you watch on TV and all you hear about is the NFL and the NHL and Pop Warner football and Pee Wee hockey. The only time you hear about us is when somebody dies and their family donates the brain. And what happens? They've all had CTE, and nobody knew it. I didn't know what it was 2 years ago, and all of a sudden it happened. So I feel great, and as I retire from wrestling in this September, I'm going to be working with Chris Nowinski and those people because I'm able to speak. My thoughts are clear. I was in a cloud for the last 6 years and didn't even know it. I just thought it was what happens when you get your brains beat in, you know? This is a natural thing, forgetting things and everything that we deal with, you know, and it's not just that. It's so much more, you know, and I'm gonna do everything I can do to spread the word. I'm gonna donate my brain in July. It's gonna be a news conference. All the TV stations will be there, and I'm gonna speak out on how it's all about football, all about hockey, nothing about us. We need to take care of this now, and I've got the doctors, and they're ready to see people, and I'm gonna become the face of CTE for pro wrestling, and I will help anybody that needs help. You know, most people have no idea, their doctors have no idea. Poor Perry Saturn, you know, he's been this way for a long time. They told him like they told me, it's a terminal injury with no cure. It's too far gone, and he's suffered all this time. Part of the reason he's here today is because he's coming to see Dr. Cantu with me Monday, and he's gonna give him an hour consultation and look at his MRI and see if we can do anything to help him. But it's like this everywhere, you know, and it's just not right, you know, so if anybody feels cloudy, depressed, can't get out of their own way, you know, come and talk to me. I'll give you my card, you know, and happy to help anybody. We're all brothers and sisters, and if I can just help a few people, which I already have, that's my thing now. As I'm feeling good, as long as I can feel good, I'm gonna do this and try to help as many people as I can. So, thank you, Joe. Thank you, fellow Hall of Famers.
Thank you, everybody. This guy works a full-time job. He's got 5 kids. He has a 6th kid on the way. He created the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Joe Gruen. It had to be done, but thank you for giving us this reason to all be together, and it's going to be a great night. And with no further ado, let's get into our first member of the class of 2018 for the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Please welcome our inductor, ladies and gentlemen. He is one half of the closers. Please welcome Hammer Tunis.
I wasn't expecting to open things up here. And the closer, the opener, come on.
That's right. Do not put that drink down, my friend. No, bring it up here. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Come on up. Hammer Tunis, ladies and gentlemen.
No. We're not. This isn't about me today. This is not about me. This is about my friend, my mentor, my former tag team partner. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about the 2018 class of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Aaron Morrison and every other inductee. Let's give him another round of applause. This is my nightmare coming up here and opening this thing, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of great speeches, and we're going to hear from a lot of people that are really influential in New England wrestling. People that probably talk on the microphone a little better than me. What I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about Aaron Morrison the person. And I say Aaron Morrison the person because Aaron Morrison is a 2018 New England Wrestling Hall of Famer. Never a gimmick, never a character, always himself. And that's how Aaron lives his life. That's how Aaron has always been since the moment I've known him. I met Aaron about 10 years ago. The very, very first independent wrestling show I ever went to. I walked in and Aaron Morrison was in the main event, and there was some kid in the crowd that was just being obscene and obnoxious, and I'll keep it PG as to what he was doing. But Aaron had about enough of it by the main event, asked security to remove the kid, no go on the security, so Aaron rolled out of the ring and did it himself. And all I remember is walking away with all my friends and going, you know, that show, I don't know much about it, but, you know, that guy in the main event who kicked out the kid doing the gestures, he was pretty good. And that guy in the opener in the purple singlet that said Idol on the side, he was pretty good. So it's fun to come full circle and be here and see 2 of my closest friends, my mentors, my confidants, and 2 people I really care about get inducted. And that's absolutely enough I'm going to say about Johnny Idol, because I don't have anything else to say about him. You know, Aaron Morrison, since the moment I met him, everything everybody told me, Aaron Morrison work ethic, Aaron Morrison work ethic. And I didn't quite know what that meant until I got to step in the ring with him a couple times, and then had the fortunate circumstance of being selected as his tag team partner for a few years. And what I learned under the Aaron Morrison learning tree, invaluable, can't be replaced, can't say enough about it. Anything I've ever accomplished in wrestling over these last 9-10 years has been because of Aaron Morrison and what he's taught me, bringing me around to shows all over, watching him put matches together, watching how he went about performing in the ring. The respect that he got from other veterans around instantly gave me respect and credibility. And I was presented with circumstances and opportunities that I never would have gotten if it wasn't for Aaron Morrison. So Aaron Morrison, from my bottom of my heart, my personal thank you very, very much. "20 years, Aaron Morrison, the wrestler, has been performing in the ring. And in a business where everybody always tries to take, Aaron Morrison always gave. That's his reputation. That's what the Aaron Morrison work ethic is. Whether it's in front of a crowd of 30 people or 300 people, Aaron Morrison is going out and busting his hump, and putting on the best possible match he could have in front of any crowd, anytime. And he doesn't just go out and try to make himself look good. That's not what wrestling is. You go out and you try to make your opponent look good. You try to make the show look good. And that's what Aaron Morrison did. From being the first person at the building, putting the ring together, years and hours of ring crew, beyond what he needed to do. Showing up, putting on the best possible match, making his opponent look as good as he possibly can, making the promoter and the promotion look as good as he possibly can, all over New England for 20 plus years. Aaron Morrison is that man. That is the Aaron Morrison work ethic. And between his wrestling, his training of countless wrestlers over the last 20 years, or just performing in front of you guys, Aaron Morrison, the man, has given his heart, his blood, his sweat and tears for all of us, out of nothing but the betterment of professional wrestling, which he cares so much about. It is my distinct honor to welcome my friend, my mentor, my former tag team partner, one of the kindest and most sincere people I know, Aaron Morrison, into the 2018 class of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
So this is going to be the first time in a couple of years that my beautiful fiance is okay with me going first. I'm going to take you back a lot of years. 1978, I believe it was. I'm on my way to my friend Paul's house because he had hockey sticks and I was obsessed with hockey. I get to his house, he's like, Aaron, get your ass in here, get your ass in here. We have to watch wrestling. Like, what the hell is wrestling, man? Is that stuff those guys do rolling around in high school? I got no time for that. Let's go play hockey. He says, no, man, we're watching wrestling. He turns on the TV, and what do I see? Jimmy and Johnny Valiant coming to the ring and beating the absolute tar out of a couple of enhancement talent guys, and I was hooked. So Jimmy, thank you. You set an obsession in an 8-year-old child that has lived on to this day. Fast forward a few years, I trained with a guy named Kevin Landry and Johnny Idol and Dean and Dave Liptek. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm going to keep my stories kind of short so you guys can get everybody else up here. It's a Sunday afternoon. We have a show later on that day. Paul Roma's at the gym with us, training a couple of his guys. Everybody leaves. Paul says, Aaron, stick around, man. Let's get a little more work in. So I'm like, all right, what do you want to do? He goes, we're going to wrestle. I said, I'm not going to fucking plan anything. We're going to wrestle. So Paul bounces me around like a Super Bowl, 9 ways to Sunday, hits me with a bunch of different moves. He gets me in a hammerlock. I remember a spot that I saw Bret and Owen Hart do. I shoot a drop toe hold on him as I'm rolling over to get him into the headlock. By the time I get my hands together, he's got me back in the hammerlock. He goes, I don't fucking think so, kid. Not today. So I get to that show later on. I'm late. Dean and Dave Liptak want to punch my face in. Kevin and John are yelling at me for being late. And the only thing I can think of was when Paul Roma is going to take some time and show you some things, you stick around. Why? Because that's Paul freaking Roma. And he got wrestled just about anyone. On the same token, there's a lot of guys that you look up to that tell you you're not good enough, you're not big enough, you're never going to be anything more than a bit player. And you got two choices in that process. You can say, you know what, you're right, I'll just accept my fate and I'll just be an okay guy. Or you can say, screw you, man, I'm going to look in the mirror, I'm going to talk to that guy, and I'm going to say, I'm going to be the best that I can. And that's what I always tried to do. I never was satisfied with giving an audience their money's worth. Why? Because I trained with Paul. And if you can give your audience the money's worth, any monkey can do that. You can put a circus monkey with 2 cymbals clapping like this and give an audience their money's worth. But we as professionals have to strive to give them more. Every time I got in the ring with Brian Fury or Johnny Idol or Alex Arion or Sonny Goodspeed or anybody else, we did just that. Because giving the audience their money's worth wasn't good enough for us. That's why we're here. That's why we are in this position, and that's why we're being recognized. Was I as good as any of these guys? No. Brian Fury could wrestle circles around me any day of the week. Johnny Idol punched my face in the ring countless times. Alex Arion, I think I threw up after wrestling him once. But we do it because we love it, and we give the audience what we can and more than they paid for because they love it. I'm going to finish off really quickly with a story that a lot of you have heard. This is one of the funniest things that ever happened to me earlier in my career. I get to a show in Cape Cod. I'm getting my boots on. I'd already said hello to everybody. I'm in a corner. And all of a sudden, basically an eclipse goes by. I look up, and there's Tony Atlas. Big, giant Tony Atlas, who I've watched a million times on TV, and I completely looked up to this guy. All of a sudden, I hear John giggling. I hear Kevin and the twins giggling. And I'm just like, oh, okay, something's going on. So I'm tying my boots up, and all of a sudden I hear, and please, everybody, I mean no disrespect, but if you know Tony, you know the voice is as spot on as I can get it. How you doing, little man? I hear you one of the new wrestlers here. My name is Tony Atlas. It's really nice to meet you. And I look up, and there's Tony wearing nothing but a Superman t-shirt that would fit my daughter, Kendall. And I look up, and I see this gigantic Virginia black snake about this far from my face. And I'm like, wow, if that's the black stereotype, I wish I could have that. Holy shnikes. So he keeps talking. I said, how long you been working, little man? And every time he says something, he's getting a little bit closer. And a little bit closer. Ah, so, I hear you pretty good. Kevin trained you pretty good, huh? And I'm like, yeah, Tony. And as he's about, I don't know, about that far from my face, I'm like, okay, I either got to touch this thing or I got to get out of this somehow. Because something's got to give. So I look up and I'm like, Tony? Yeah, little man, what's up? I'm like, the shipyard just called, and there's an oil tanker that's getting away. So could you take that thing and tie the fucking ship off and leave me alone? That started 20 years of conversations with Tony and everybody else that I had the privilege of being in the ring with. It's something I will never forget, just as much as this plaque, just as much as every match that I've ever had with anybody in the audience or anybody that's not here. So for anybody who says I don't deserve it, right there, pal. Right there. Because you know what? Like everybody else, I work my ass off and I earned this. Just like all of us, just like everybody else. And if you don't like it, too bad. I got a skinny Irish ass behind me that you can kiss. Just put on some chapstick so your lips don't turn brown. Thank you.
Our next inductee is the Portuguese Princess Ariel. And here to induct Ariel into the class of 2018 is a fellow Hall of Famer himself, one of my best friends in the business, the East Coast Intensity, Jose Perez.
Good evening. Again, Joe. Thanks, man. It's a big deal for everybody, man, honestly. You should be getting one of these for yourself, honestly. You got people coming in? What can I say about this young lady? It's surprising that we just had this conversation a couple of weeks ago that I've actually known her almost half her life. It's crazy to think that I'm already getting the Iggy. I know I was always told, don't get the mic. I know. Ariel started when she was about 15, 16 years old and accomplished a lot in her time. To be able to be who she was and what she did with a smile. But she was always told that, she's not big enough, she's not strong enough. She didn't think of it that way. This girl had an opportunity to wrestle not only in New England, across the country. She had an opportunity to go to Japan, Mexico, Canada. And it's an amazing to see how this woman has progressed. But it always stuck that she always had that feeling that she wasn't good enough. And she always wanted to prove somebody wrong. And she always wanted to make sure that she got that point across, and she trained hard and she worked hard and she kind of got that point. But she always did it with this defiant type of attitude about it. And it was very important. Mies? Jimmy Mies. All right, so cue in the defiant, I guess?
What's up there, sweetheart? How you doing, guys?
Okay.
I'm gonna tell the story. You know,
Do the story.
honey, first of all, I love you. Do not beat the shit out of me outside after this is over, okay? We love you. But no, a lot of people did give her that where they said, she was always gonna be the smaller girl. She was always gonna be the one that got beaten on. And I remember the first time I really got to sit down and watch her, she proved me wrong and everybody within a 10-mile radius who could hear the guys screaming. We had a tournament for DPW, this is probably back in about 2007, and we were short one guy for the tournament. We're like, who can we put in there, who can we put in there? And of course, Miss Cherry over here, oh, I'll do it. I'll work with the guys. And all right, we put her in there. The guys were pissed. So her first match, we put her in there with good old Abel Graves, who couldn't work himself out of a paper bag. Yeah, literally, he couldn't hit water if he fell off a goddamn boat. So we throw her in there with him and going slow, and you could tell she was getting irritated because everything they called was just ass backwards, and he was screwing it up. So he decides he wants cheap feet, throws her in the corner, and decides to grab a boob. Did you ever see The Incredible Hulk when his clothes start to split up the back, and he gets pissed and just throws everything that he gets his hands on? This was her. She beat the piss out of this poor boy. He couldn't breathe for the last 10 minutes. I think she dragged the match out on purpose just so she could beat on him some more. She hit him so much you could hear him screaming down the hall. And this is no kidding. We had people from a bar 3 buildings over coming over and looking in because they wanted to know who was screaming because she's beating the hell out of this guy. Mike Milano, God rest his soul, decides, I want to referee this match because it's funny now. Slides in the ring as Abel's laying on his back, and you can hear it on video clear as day is, you pissed that bitch off. And all you hear is gasping for air, oh my God, I know, while she's kicking him in the side of the head. It was absolutely fantastic. But, hon, I just want to say how proud of you I am. You've accomplished more than anybody ever said that you could do. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is you're only a couple short of a soccer team now, so you guys can keep going. So let's finish it off. But I'm proud of you, and I love you, hon.
Ariel came up at a time where women's wrestling might have been slightly different. A little bit, the TNA aspect of it, things and whatnot. But she was out there to break the mold. And I personally feel, and I think there's some others that feel that, I think with the whole women's revolution that goes on now, I think she was one of the ones that pioneered it in the beginning. That's a fact for me.
Yep, absolutely.
They say there is a phrase going around of the 4 horsewomen. I can't think of anybody better than Ariel, Mercedes Martinez, Nikki Rocks. There's one other that unfortunately escapes my memory here. And I had it in my head about 50 times. Cindy Rogers. I'm sorry, Cindy Rogers. Those girls were trailblazers at the time where they said, forget about the whole bras and panties matches, we're going to kick your face in. Whether they wrestled against each other, they tagged, whatever the case may be, they gave you well more than your money's worth up and down the East Coast and anywhere else in between. But the thing that stuck out to her the most was family. I remember sitting with her one day and she's like, I can't wait to get married. I'm like, you're 20, stop. She's like, but I want a big family, 9, 10, 12 kids. I'm like, are you retarded? What's wrong with you?
She did it in 2 years.
Fast forward to present day, she's halfway there. As beautiful as the kids are, and this past May, gave birth to the newest of the clan, little Benjamin.
Yeah, you gotta go
Brain
with the mom,
fart.
you're like-
Little Benjamin, and I was blessed to be asked to be godparents with my wife for him, and but family was the biggest thing, and the reason why this gentleman is here because this is the gentleman that she swooped off his feet. It wasn't the other way around. She literally swooped him off his feet. I think it was an arm drag, a back fist, and took him from there. But Mr. BMT Tomas had something he wanted to get in and maybe get across.
A little too high. So I'm essentially her retirement plan. The one thing I noticed, I met, it's funny because the story that Mies told, that was the night I was going to ask her for her phone number. I changed my mind. She is the personification of woman in every way. A mother of 6 children under 6 years old. A preschool teacher. Or as we like to define it in English language, a masochist. I remember in 2007 when I met her for the first time, I was 150 pounds. I was wearing neon pink spandex and I had an afro. Surprised I wasn't racially profiled where we were. But it's literally 11 years later, 6 children. It's the greatest thing I ever did. I remember driving up and down the East Coast with her, watching her wrestle, watching her beat up poor souls, and it's quite the pleasure to be sitting here. It was rough, we almost weren't here, it's really hard to find a babysitter for 6 kids. But I'll just keep it sweet because the babysitter does charge by the hour. and I got to put 6 kids through college. So I'm very proud of her. I love her to death, and this is something that she's long overdue deserved. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce, if you don't mind, the female inductee.
Before you do that, one last thing real quick, sorry. A few years ago, she lost somebody very special to her. She's looking down at you right now, Ronnie. She's looking at you and she's proud of you, immensely proud of you. And always remember that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the women's inductee into the 2018 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Portuguese Princess Ariel.
Thank you for making me mess up my makeup. I worked hard on this. Thank you for having me, and apparently I don't realize how close this is. So I've never been good at talking to the mic. It's always been one of those things. It's kind of how this relationship first happened in wrestling, because I would just make him do all my talking. But I'm going to keep it very simple. Thank you very much for people like Baker, who trained me and believed in me when I was a 15-year-old. I came to a wrestling school because my brother wanted to train, and one of the promoters looked at me and said, "Do you want to wrestle?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "Okay, come back when you're 16. I go, "Good, I'll turn 16 next week. I'll be back." And I did, and Baker saw something in me, so he took me under his wing, and along with him, Jose Perez, who had a good hand in that as well, because he was always there helping me out. I did my best to make women's wrestling proud over here in New England, and I got to travel and make some of my best friends, like Nikki Rocks, who's not here, who will be inducted soon, I'm sure. She deserves to be here. She was supposed to come, but babies happen, as we know. But so some of my best friends I met in wrestling. I met my husband in wrestling. Very close friends nowadays. I'm just thankful I was able to do it. I'm very glad my 6 children are very excited that they got to see mommy as a wrestler, because they see videos and they don't even believe it that that's the same person. But I make my little kids proud, and I'm thankful for everybody. Thank you very much for believing in women's wrestling, and this whole women's revolution is cool on TV and all, but while half of them are still half naked on TV, me, Nikki Rocks, and all the girls like Mercedes used to drop me on my head every 3 seconds at ACW or DPW, at the end of the day, we were doing it before they were on TV. So women's revolution is how you believe in yourself, and I tried my best to not fit in the mold and just do what I can. So little girls who are here, watching at home, you can do it, even if you're a little tiny Portuguese girl who came from another country, who had no clue what wrestling was, but thought it was going to be a cool thing to do. So thank you very much. I'm very proud of this. So thank you.
Our next inductee could not be here tonight, but I'll be damned if we are not going to have the inductor come up here and say a couple of words. Ladies and gentlemen, a fellow New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, one of my dear, dear friends in this business, one of my favorite people in the world, ladies and gentlemen, Ron Zombie!
Really quickly, about 8-9 months ago, I was in a match. I was tagging with Bobby Ocean and Jose, and I got hurt. This man did not leave my side. I love you, Richie. Let the fun begin. I'm beyond honored to stand here in front of you guys. I was inducted here, a few years back by Dylan Cage. He's not here tonight. A few years before that, I was able to induct Kurt Adonis. I said Kurt Adonis, come on. got guys like going in tonight like Brian Fury. I'm glad he retired because he kept reading my beer. You know, Dylan is, he's home with his wife right now. She was very ill and he couldn't make it. And he's heartbroken he couldn't be here in front of you guys. He wrote some words for me to read to you, so I'll see what I can do. There's a few edits, so. Dylan's words. For over the past 20 years, I've been a part of this crazy business we call wrestling. From taking tickets, handing out flyers, to jumping in the squared circle, I've been fortunate to experience every side. For a guy who was never supposed to lace up a pair of boots, I overachieved. To be able to work on TV, to work in Japan, thank you Knuckles, and in Puerto Rico. These are just extras. I'm beyond that, and I'm eternally grateful to be a part of this great faction in this industry we call wrestling. And for the boys. Guys that you travel with, that you're in the trenches with, the guys that risk life and limb to make sure we made it back home. That's my favorite part of this sport of kings. When I think back to the memories, those road trips, in the forefront, whether it was drinking Jack and Cokes with Percy Pringle, watching the Iron Sheik try to pay for everything with 8x10s, or shutting down the bars with Zombie, Kurt, Knuckles, Curry. Nothing compares to that brotherhood, and for that I am truly humbled. Lastly, the most important is my family. My wife Sarah for putting up with my craziness, my kids Veda, Bodie, and Swayze for always being there by my side. And for the incredible trainers in my life, Wahoo McDaniels, Colt Steele, Leilani Kai, and Jason Knight. Without you, none of this would be possible. And to Ron Zombie, who I would never be where I was without him. I had at that point. So Dylan is completely humbled by this, and he appreciates all of you. Thank you very much.
Zombie, you're forgetting something.
Lemmy would be very upset with me.
Ron Zombie, ladies and gentlemen. Our next inductee, I've been very fortunate to know since the day he stepped into a ring. This young man was trained by Walter Killer Kowalski. Bigger round of applause for Killer Kowalski. He's still doing it today. He's heavily involved in the project that brought professional wrestling back to Fenway Park for the first time since 1969. He partners with our friends at Dante Luna Media, and he's just a great guy, and he is my good friend, Bo Douglas. Round of applause for Bo. And just watching you grow from when you first started to what you are with your beautiful daughter right there, and your lovely lady by your side, it's humbling. I'm literally thrilled to be up here, but I'm not going to induct you. I'm going to have your best friend induct you. He's the host of the Rundown podcast. He's a fellow announcing brethren. He's a Mr. Everything. If you're running a show, he's the commissioner. He'll ring the bell if he has to. He's a ring announcer. And by the way, he is very, very tall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Stewart.
So, for the first time with the microphone in front of me, I'm actually going to go off a script tonight. I'm here to induct Bo Douglas into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And this is proof that if you work hard enough and you dedicate yourself to this business, eventually Joe Bruin will run out of old guys to put in this thing and you will get a call. All joking aside, I've been truly blessed to share a lot of this journey with Bo. I met Bo in high school, and this was right before it became cool to be a wrestling fan. So when you found another fan, you guys stuck together. We met, ironically enough, at a Killer Kowalski wrestling show at Anthony's in Somerville. The show is headlined by Sexton Hardcastle, or Edge, who went on to some other Hall of Fame or something. We both showed up early at the venue that day to try to get in by helping set up. They let us in the back. We ended up unloading the truck and doing security for the show. After the show, we really started talking, and then the whole thing clicked. Little did I know that this encounter would lead to a lifelong friendship, a career in a wrestling business, and ultimately me standing right here. When you think of professional wrestlers, Bo is not the image that pops into your head. I didn't even have to get to the joke, this is great. He looks more likely to be opening up for a boy band somewhere than entertaining a wrestling crowd. He's never had the chiseled physique that you associate with a pro wrestler. He was never the fastest, never the smartest, never even the best politician. What he was the kid from Somerville who never allowed himself an option B. For Bo, it was wrestling or bust. There was nothing else. So Bo made it work however he had to. He knew he would never be happy doing anything else. There would be a hole in his life if he didn't make it work. For Bo, through just making it in the business wasn't enough. Bo needed those closest to him to be with him. And after my plans to maybe get in the ring were ended with a medical diagnosis, I pulled away. I wanted nothing to do with the stories of training and road trips. And as some of you may know, Bo can be a little stubborn. He wouldn't allow me to get away from it. He would always tell me about the latest road stories with Wagner Brown, Jason Rumble, Louis Ortiz, Damon Darkangelo, and so many more. He kept trying to find ways to get me in to do something because he didn't want me on the outside of it. Eventually, when Jason took over NWA New England, Bo talked him into taking a shot on me and making me the voice of the product. That was it. 20 or so years later, I'm still here working shows and just sat next in Gorilla to Louis Ortiz last week. I would have missed out on a huge part, a huge chunk of my life if it weren't for Bo refusing to let me get away from wrestling. See, as accomplished as Bo became as a wrestler, he's a better person. He cares about people in a way very few do, and he has a huge heart. He's tough, he's stubborn, and to be honest, he can be a tough son of a bitch to love sometimes. But once you're with him, you're in for life. As the years and the miles started to rack up, Bo got more involved in training students at the Bell Time Club and ultimately ended up taking over the school. Bo is ensured his mark will be left in New England for a long time to come. His students will tell you he's tough, but almost all of them would ultimately count him as a friend. Through it all, he's taken the lessons he's learned from some of the greats, not just in New England, but in the history of the wrestling business, and he's applied those lessons into his training. Part of that is never forgetting what it's like to be one of the boys. He remembers what it's like to be a young guy in those locker rooms, nervous about how to conduct yourself. He teaches those things to his students, and they're better off for it. For the longest time, Bo's only true love was wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of girls, and I mean a lot of girls. Dude, all right, when I wrote this, I didn't know Joanna was going to be here. I'm sorry. They say kayfabe is dead. Point is, none of those people ever compared to wrestling. I honestly didn't think anything ever would. Then Bo had a daughter. Man, they say the universe will pay you back one day. And I can't wait to see Bo as the father of a teenage girl. That said, the way he looks at Savannah, it's the same way he used to look when he would talk wrestling, but somehow much deeper. I smile, knowing that he will leave that little girl a legacy, that she'll grow up and know that her father left an imprint on this industry. She will know her dad got here at this moment. Brother is a word that gets thrown about in the wrestling business. It's a word people use as a greeting and as a farewell. It's a sign of respect and camaraderie amongst those who trust their lives to one another. In some cases, though, it means even more. In some cases, it means the person who knows what you need more than you do. In some cases, it means the person that never lets you fall through the cracks, no matter how badly you want to. In some cases, it means the person who lets you live with them when home is not an option. In some cases, it's the person that walks you through the nerves before your first date with a new girl. In some cases, it's the guy standing next to you at the altar and almost lighting the church on fire as you marry that very girl. That is a true story, by the way. In some cases, it's the guy your child knows only as uncle. And in some very, very, very rare cases, it's the guy you get to induct into the Hall of Fame. So please join me in inducting to the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2018, my best man, my best friend, and my brother, Bo Douglas.
Thank you. So you just made it real easy for me. I can keep this short and sweet. First off, I want to start off by, that's the best bet. It's short and sweet, right? Yeah. All right. So first, I just want to start off by thanking Joe Bruin for having me here today, for all of you for in getting me inducted, I should say, into this New England Hall of Fame. Rich, yep. I have known you over 21 years. I'm not. And I appreciate each and every one of you in here. In all honesty, I have probably been involved in a show with each and every person that is here in attendance, whether or not working with them, working against them, or even just sharing the locker room. The reason I mention this is I want to thank each and every one of you. Because if it wasn't for each and every one of you, this wouldn't happen. This wouldn't work. This wrestling business would not exist. Because it's about us all working together to get the point across, to make people be entertained, to make them understand, to make them invest. Everyone knows wrestling is pro wrestling. It's about giving them something different. It's about standing out. And that's one of the things I tried to do over these 21 years. I definitely feel like I've stood out, whether or not for the good or for the bad. And of course, as Rich mentioned, being trained by Killer Kowalski, that's one thing. That's one thing that will always stick with us, is he said to be larger than life, to stand out, to be different. Speaking of being trained by Kowalski, I remember actually in 1995 with Jay Stewart as well as Wagner Brown walking up those creaky stairs that we hear about every year at the Hall of Fame. Walking up those creaky stairs, walking into the building, and then being greeted by the long-haired freak you just heard up here, Ron Zombie. Watching him work hand in hand, Steve King, Freight Train Dan, who's not here right now, wish he was, Tim McNeely, Tony Roy, some of the greats, also Hall of Famers. One thing I want to do is I want to thank them, because if it wasn't for them, I really would have no chance in standing here, because they took me under their wing. Because as Jason said, I wasn't the person you would look at and think pro wrestling. I wasn't the person you would look at and think pro wrestler. Shoot, at that point I was 15 years old. Walter looked at me and he did see something. He let us come. 2 years. 2 years he came. He let us come every Tuesday and Thursday night. And we would sit there and we would watch. And we'd be the little marks or the little fans sitting out there watching all the guys go. Guys like Ron, of course, liking us, making fun of us, dealing with us, helping Walter deal with us, would get us involved. We'd start learning. Then finally, 2 years later, 1997, Walter was done letting us just freeload, and he allowed us to join. Joining at 17 years old, the youngest person to start at Kowalski School, signing that waiver, having my family sign it. And here we are, 21 years later. I'm being inducted into the New England Hall of Fame. It's been a real long road. I appreciate every moment of it. Try not to live with regrets. It's one thing I can tell you that I learned, something I'll leave you with, of course, is to always have fun while you're doing this. If you don't feel like you're having fun, get out. There's no point in doing this if you're not having fun. You gotta stay safe, too. You know, I want to wrap this up, of course, with a bunch of thank yous. I want to thank Killer Kowalski. I want to thank all the Kowalski boys, top to bottom, everybody. From Tony Rumble's days with NWA New England. I see Alex Arion standing right there. Sitting right there, I should say. Sheldon Goldberg in the back, who was there all the way through, of course, recently with NECW. I thank Paul Richard, of course, opening the show. Adding a lot to what we've been doing with pro wrestling, with New England independent wrestling. Brian Fury for turning out a great product. Aaron Morrison for turning out a great product with the students that they've put through. I want to thank you all again. We learned one last thing, was that everyone dies, but not everyone lives. And pro wrestling has given me the platform to live. So guys, keep on living. Thank you.
Our next inductee is the egomaniac Johnny Idol. And here to induct Johnny Idol into the class of 2018 is professional wrestling's mastermind and sometimes active competitor. Please welcome Marshall McNeil.
I got nothing to say. Good night, everybody. He played the music too. I love it. That's the loudest pop in 13 years. That's the loudest pop I've ever had. That was great. Yeah, thank you very much. Sonny's right. Thank you. Yeah, I love you, Sonny. You're my favorite. I don't like guys like Taven anymore. I like guys like you. The things that come out at the Hall of Fame. Yeah, John's giving me this. I got here at 12 o'clock with Tom Burke, and I've been at the bar the whole time because I got a problem, you know. So I'm surprised I don't have a beer in me right now. I'm in my hand right now, but whatever. We'll go to the bar after. We'll do this. All right. I'll get to Idol because he's gonna get hot at me if I don't say something nice about him, you know. But yeah. That's the relationship John and I have. If anyone knows us, we go back and forth with each other constantly. I mean, we drive each other nuts, and that's just our relationship. A relationship that started in 2006. And I was training at Kevin Landry's school in Chicopee, Massachusetts. And I went to Kevin Landry and I said I wanted to get into the wrestling business as a manager. And he said, no problem. I can take care of that for you. I know just the guy to talk to. And he gets a big grin on his face and he goes, you ever heard of Johnny Idol? And I said, nope, never heard of him. But a week later, John showed up, and I don't know what it was. We just clicked, and I think it was we both shared the interest of professional wrestling. He had a willingness to teach me. I had a willingness to learn. And he just started showing me, you know, all the different nuances of not only just being a heel, but being a heel manager, you know, right down to that side bump that guys like J.J. Dillon and Jim Cornette took when they got knocked on their behind, and the legs go up and the tie goes and the glasses come off, and you know, John taught me that kind of stuff. And you know, from there he said, come on the road with me, just come to a show. You're not booked, you're not gonna wrestle tonight, but just come to a show, show your face. And I got to know people. I met promoters like Sheldon Goldberg and Bob Evans, and met guys like Alex Arion and Brian Fury, and you just show your face and you start to get booked like that. And I owe John a lot of credit for that because he really, really took me under his wing when I first started, and I appreciate that. Just as he did for so many people in this room, Hammer Tunis, Zach, Perry Von Vicious, you know, I mean, John never officially trained anybody, but he taught so many guys in New England. He was a mentor to so many guys. A lot of guys that are in this room Some guys you see on TV today, I mean, what? Mike Bennett, you were like his first or second match or something like that, yeah. I mean, and all these guys, he didn't train them, but they'd see Johnny come into the locker room. Hey, John, can you watch my match tonight? Give me some feedback. And you go back, oh yeah, do this, do that, you know, I like this, whatever. And he did that for so many guys in New England. He was a mentor to so many. And you know what, the other important thing was that he was trustworthy. When someone like a Bob Evans or a Sheldon had a new guy come in that was green, didn't know how to work, a lot of times they would call on John because they knew they could trust him. They knew he could go in and help the kid through the match and not take advantage of him. And that's important because there's some guys that would get in and they'd give the guy a hard time and the kid wouldn't learn. John always took the time to teach people the right way, to have them learn the right way. And I think that's how he should be remembered. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you a man who is my friend. He's been my partner. He's been my enemy. He's been my manager. I've been his manager. It is my honor to induct into the New England Professional Wrestling class of 2018, ladies and gentlemen, the egomaniac, Johnny Idol!
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you to Joe Bruin, really. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you to Marshall for the kind words. I just have to tell a quick story. Marshall was, it was early on, Marshall was managing me. I want to say it was way up in Vermont somewhere or something. I needed knee surgery at the time, and right at the beginning of the match, my knee popped and got through the match and get through the curtain, and I'm limping through the curtain, and I'm trying to find some place to go, and my buddy, Marshall, does he get me a chair? No. Does he ask me if I'm okay? No. He says, and I quote, folks, "Ugh, I'll take you out to the pasture and shoot you in the head, put you out of your misery like a lame horse." That's my pal, Marshall McNeil. That's my pal, yeah. I should warn you guys, by the way, I really didn't plan anything I was going to say, and I started drinking about 2:30, so it's go time, all right? So, this is very strange to me. To be standing here in front of people that literally did this for a living is super humbling to me. And not only people that did this for a living, but people that influenced me and people that helped me so much. And it's so strange to be standing up here, and it's awkward. Yeah, not gonna lie, it's awkward. And thank you to all those people for pretending to give a shit about the things we're saying up here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That being said, Paul, I wasn't one of Paul's students. I was not. I was just there when he was training his guys, and he just helped me out, and he had no reason to do it. And I owe you so much, Paul. Thank you. He doesn't remember me at all, but it's okay. It's fine. He didn't owe that to me. He just did it for me, and I can't thank him enough. He taught me so much, and he gave me 2 amazing lessons that I have to share with you guys. The first one was, Johnny, you're a terrible manager. Stop managing. So get some gear and get in the ring and cut the crap and do that. So I did. So thank you for that, Paul. I appreciate it. The other one, I said to him right after that, I said, well, Paul, I'm a manager. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start working with these people. I want to be a wrestler. And I'm concerned about these people taking me seriously. And I'm concerned about them taking liberties with me. And I'm concerned about them feeling as though I deserve to be there. So Paul said, go out there and work twice as hard as anybody else and show those people that you deserve to be there. And I did that. And he also said, if that doesn't work, give him a spud. So thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. It's a potato, folks. Yeah, thank you. I want to take a little bit different route really quick. So I'm going to take a minute to do this. There's only been 2 things I've ever wanted to do in my life, and that's the truth. I wanted to play in rock bands, and I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And I've had the privilege and the honor to do those 2 things for the majority of my life. I'm still playing music live, and I'm literally honored to still get to do those things. Thank you. Thanks. I'm so fortunate. I'm really, really fortunate to do that. And I'll tell you why I feel like I'm fortunate, because think about it, performers, there's a lot of performers in this room, whether you're a wrestler, an actor, a musician, a singer, a songwriter, a dancer, what have you, we're performers. And think about this for a second. We are going to do what we do. People make it a privilege to drive sometimes long distances, pay money to sit down and get away from whatever's going on out there and forget about all that crap for however long we're doing our thing and be entertained by us doing the thing that we love. How fortunate are we to get to do that? Seriously, that is amazing. And I feel so great about that. It's incredible. I really do. So, I just want to say one quick thing. My mom is here. Yeah, you can boo her, it's fine. Mama Idol, you can boo her, it's okay. She didn't get to see me wrestle for 20 years, and she finally got to see me a few years ago, and then she didn't miss a show after that. We were always somewhere else, and she couldn't get there. She was a big wrestling fan, and the rumor has it she was reading magazines when she was pregnant with me, and Bruno Sammartino was her favorite, so you can either thank or blame Mom for me getting involved in this business. However, this is gonna be tough. 10 years ago last month, we lost my only brother. He was my idol, he was my hero, and I loved him very much. And I've spent the last 10 years of my life trying to be the kind of man that he would be proud of. And he would be so proud right now. So this is for him, and I love you, Jeremy, and I miss you. Just remember one thing, cuts heal, chicks dig scars, but idols never die. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate it.
Our next inductee is the mighty Hercules. That's great. I'm not even going to build the notes, ladies and gentlemen. He teamed with Hercules, of course, as Power and Glory. Please welcome future inductee Paul Roma, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I thought I was coming up here first before Ray, but he swerved me just now. There's quite a few things that nobody knows about Ray, myself. Two stories I was going to share with his family today, which they didn't know. And one of them was that Ray and I brought Power and Glory together with an understanding that we were going to become role models for kids. And I told him it won't work unless that's the way it goes down. And he was all on board, you know, I mean, I just said to his wife a few minutes ago, every time he went home, he got her pregnant and he just had another kid, so he was all on board. I mean, he had more kids than we had, you know, to take care of, so it was just a beautiful thing. You know, Ray's not here today as far as physically, but he is spiritually. He's always with me. I don't know if, you know, some people think I may be nuts about it, but I still work out with him. He still trains with me, keeps me going. Him and I had a relationship that, as I would put it, probably better than any marriage that could have been put together out there. And some of you might disagree with that, but I really don't care. We had one fight, him and I, that probably lasted about 2 hours. And everybody saw it. All the boys saw it, wondering what was going on. Because we got along so well, we never fought, but we did. And he basically got mad at me, told me he was going to kill me, which I was petrified, just to let you know. And that next morning at breakfast, and I can't say it because a lot of the kids here, but he basically told me to go, myself. And I went and got in the car and we drove to the airport together. And by the time we got off the plane, and we were all hugs and kisses and making up. That's the relationship that we had. It was a phenomenal relationship. I don't think anybody could comprehend how we got along. We were a team that couldn't be stopped, no matter what the pencils, what direction they were pointing in, and how that was all written down. Power and glory stood for strength in God, and that's not to say him and I were either one of those. It was just something where we were set to take care of any kids, less fortunate, handicapped, didn't matter. And he proved it to me when we were in Louisiana. We were leaving to go to the show. Ray was driving, that was our agreement. He'd drive during the day, I would drive at night. So we're leaving the parking lot relatively fast because we were late. And he's spinning the car around, I'm asking him, what are you doing? We gotta get to the show, we're gonna be late, we're gonna get fined. And he pulled up on this kid in a wheelchair. And I said, wow, he gets it, man, he gets it. I didn't see the kid, he did. He was standing there with his mom. We both got out of the car, take pictures with him. And when I was asking the little boy if he was going to come to the show, and his mother stood behind him doing this to me. And, you know, she was mouthing to me, she didn't have tickets to the show. And I said, hey, listen, man, we're gonna take care of you. You know, we're gonna set up a spot for you right outside the ring post. You and your mom just come to the show. And they did. She went ahead to write us a beautiful letter, Ray and myself, saying how great it was that they couldn't get to the show otherwise if it wasn't for us, which is no big deal. But it was a big deal to him. And that's what really matters. So I'm not taking anything away from anybody that's been up here already. What they've preached, and I mean that in the nicest way. I think everything that you said was tremendous, but it was a lot more than that for us. We stayed away from our families, our kids. I think Ray had the longest time on the road without a break till he started missing some of the states he was supposed to be in, or showing up in the wrong states. And they realized that they have to give guys time off because it was just too much. I just wish I could really open up all your heads and just pour a little bit of him and how he was and how he thought and what life really meant. And how you could get on the road, get away from your own family, your own loved ones, and you know, go out and make a difference in the world to these other kids. And that's what Power and Glory did. So it wasn't about fame. It wasn't about us, you know, for ourselves. It was all about those kids. And when and a lot of people don't know this, I had a baby sister born with Downs. I don't cry in front of people, so. And she passed away at 30 years old. She was the whole reason behind this great thing that Ray and I put together. She couldn't walk. She had trouble functioning. And I said, what am I doing so great with my life? I got money, I got houses. I said, I need to become a role model for these kids. And when I approached Ray with it, once I got into wrestling, and it always stayed in my mind, I always had to be better than everybody else. I had to jump higher, I had to be stronger, you know, I had to do things people couldn't do. And it's just the way that it was, no matter what they said, and you heard people up here before me talking about that. It wasn't about what they said, it's about whether they could stop that person, that train. And like I said, when I approached Ray with it, he was just all on board. Ray is a beautiful person. It's a shame that most of you people in there, other than his family, didn't get a chance to meet him and know what he really was about. And he deserves this more than anybody that I've ever met. One of the greatest men, along with my dad, that I've ever met in my life. God bless him. And Debbie, this is even remotely close what they should be giving her. I don't think there's a plaque or a trophy big enough. He's, you know, I have to say one thing. I asked you and all the kids a question. Did you know what Ray, when he used to put both hands over his head and pull him down? And people don't know what that means. You know, he used to reach up and he'd go like this. Well, you know, a little secret, because this is what it was. He was pulling lightning bolts out of the sky. That's what he was doing. He was real, and he was, to me, he was a god. He was mythical. I mean, he was all of that and then some. But most of all, he was a great dad. He loved his kids. That's all he ever talked about. And that's all we ever talked about. So, God bless him. Debbie, please.
I'd like to ask my daughters and son, Jeremy, to come up. And our grandkids too. So, first I'd like to thank Joe for this honor. Ray loved wrestling, and he especially loved wrestling in New England. I also like to thank Paul, because I know he had a big part of getting Ray inducted. He was all about family. He was all about his fans. He enjoyed wrestling, and what came with it, as far as with his fans, he never, ever refused an autograph, ever. And we would be, sometimes the girls would get mad because we'd be sitting, having lunch or breakfast somewhere, and someone would come up, even from the kitchen, to get an autograph. And he would stop eating, which he didn't like doing because he liked to eat, and would sign an autograph. One particular time we went to Disney World and they were all excited about, you know, going to see Mickey Mouse, walking around, and we were stopped literally, I mean, every 10 feet. It was, you know, he loved that they enjoyed what he did, and he was grateful that people recognized him. He never took himself seriously. He just loved wrestling. So I thank Joe and everyone and all his fans, and I must say he does deserve this. Thank you.
With our next inductee, he is a third generation athlete, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Rocket, Fred Curry Jr. Ooh. And here to induct Fred Curry is, well, a retired professional wrestler, now a fellow ring announcer, and he has got the whitest teeth in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Bertie Curdy Kurt Adonis.
Thank you, Rich, for the wonderful introduction. And I just want to piggyback on something that Paul said about the generosity of your father and the generosity of you and Hercules. I told the story earlier when I was 9 years old. Survivor Series 1990 at the Hartford Civic Center. My father waited on your father. He was working at the restaurant, and he said, yes, I will. He told your father that my son's a huge wrestling fan. And your dad said, give me his address. And a couple weeks later, I got a package in the mail. Now, I'm 8 years old now. Not too many 8-year-olds get packages in the mail, but I opened that package and there was a magazine with the bookmark in it. And I opened it up and it was an autographed, personalized picture from Paul Roma and Hercules. I wasn't very popular in school. I struggled a lot, but when I brought that picture, that magazine, personalized, it really changed my life. So I thank you, Paul, and I thank Hercules' family for doing that for me. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Perry Saturn because he gave me a life lesson where he told me to shake hands like a man. And I've taken that into my real world, my real life job, and it's a life lesson that I've never forgotten. Thank you very much for that. And to Aaron Morrison, Johnny Idol, Alex Arion, Ariel, you guys are great. Brian Ferry, hi, my name is Kurt. But now we're here to talk about Fred Curry Jr. And according to the World of Wrestling magazine from December 2000, Fred made his professional wrestling debut on September 22nd, 1999 as he teamed with his father in Columbus, Ohio to defeat the TNTs. Wow, there's a picture of you in the bathtub. Anybody who wants to see this, I'll be standing over in the corner. I knew about Bill Curry, his grandfather, one of the greatest heels and the toughest men to ever grace the professional wrestling world. I knew about his father, Flying Fred Curry, from the Pro Wrestling Almanac, who in 1972 was tied for the most popular wrestler in the world. So right here, the fellow Hall of Famer, Fred Curry, Flying Fred Curry. I first heard the name Rocket Fred Curry Jr. from Sheldon Goldberg. Where's Sheldon Goldberg? Sheldon brought Fred in, and he made him sound like the greatest thing in the world. He's the Rocket. He's a third-generation superstar, and I saw the pictures, and I saw the flyers, and we all had the hype. There wasn't much internet going on back then, but Rocket Fred Curry was the it thing. And then on August 27, 2000, we happened to be on the same show. And as we're sitting there in the Millennium Theater, I saw Fred sitting there by himself, lacing his boots. I'm like, you know, this is my opportunity. I'm going to go meet him. So as I come over, hobbling over with my boot, and I sit down next to Fred, I'm like, hey, my name's Kurt. You like to go out? I meant to clubs, but you know what? As I was nervously lacing my boots, and he probably think I was hitting on him, a friendship started. And for 18 years, I can count my best friends on one hand, and Fred Curry, you're one of them. We had the opportunity to work for a man, and this is, I can't believe this is the first time the name's been spoken this evening, Mike Spada. Where Fred, myself, Tim McNeely, and the hippie freak became the unofficial Kleezik. We would hang out. We would all drive from our personal lives and get up to the shows in Boston, Massachusetts, and we'd get to the shows and we'd do the shows, and the shows were great, but we couldn't wait to get back to Tim's, take a quick shower, and get out for a night on the town. So we'd hit the Kells, we'd hit the White Horse, we'd hit the Busy Bee for wings, and we would party till the sun came up. And we would take that time and we would talk about the previous evening's show. How are we going to improve tomorrow night's show? And we would sit there until the sun came up, and believe it or not, somehow it just seemed like those Friday night shows were, no matter how much we talked about them, were better than the Saturday night shows, and well, certainly better than the Sunday afternoon shows when those happened. But we had a booking room, and we had great arguments about Fred Curry and his height, because Fred claims he was 6 feet tall, and Tim McNeely says you're 5 foot 11 inches, and it literally ended up in fisticuffs. Because to quote the great Killer Kowalski, Fred, you were too short to be champion. I'll make it quick. Fred and I, we were great opponents. We got to wrestle each other. I got to dress like him, where I got the Kid Curry to actually believe that I was his brother, because we kind of look like each other. So if I put a hat over my head and you know, I have to smile, we look alike. We got you on that one, Nikki. We actually wrestled in a Costco, where I hold a victory over Fred Curry as we're brawling in Costco, and the people are looking at the deli aisle wondering why these two guys are beating the heck out of each other in the middle of the store. I hold a count-out victory over you. Thank you, Zombie, for that quality booking. Little known fact that Fred Curry actually wrestled Eddie Guerrero for Mike Sparta when Dr. Tom Pritchard came and wanted to evaluate Eddie Guerrero to see if he was ready to come back to the WWE. And they had a match, and believe it or not, Eddie actually mentioned it in his book. If I could quote Eddie Guerrero. One of my first indie bookings had me wrestling in front of 25 people in some school gym. The match was the Drizzling Cheez-Its. When I came back, I was livid. I was pissed off. I started throwing chairs around, cursing the works. Then I thought, hey, who cares? There's only 25 people out there. Who gives a Cheez-It? But then it hit me. Who gives a Cheez-It? I give a Cheez-It. I don't care if there are 25 people or 25,000 people. I only want to give them my best out there. So Freddie Curry, thank you for lighting the fire under Eddie Guerrero that made him the superstar and Hall of Famer and world champion that we all love and appreciate. We have had so many good times at your beach house. As a matter of fact, and I use this cliche a lot, Fred, we have forgotten more good times than most people will ever experience in a lifetime. And for that, we are truly fortunate. You're a rocket, you're a Connecticut idol, and by the way, it was your fault that Psycho Sid beat the heck out of both of us. You're a rocket, you're a Connecticut idol, you're a heat seeker. You've worked for ACW, DPW, WWA, NECW, NWA, NEW, and you love Monopoly. You're a drop-kicking guy who hits you in the sternum. You are the grandson of Bull Curry. You're the son of Flying Fred Curry, and you're the brother of Kid Curry. Please give it up for the newest member of the 2018 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Rocket, Fred Curry.
Thank you, Kurt. That's flattering. No, I want to thank Joe Bruin. This is a great honor. Thank you very much. So if you guys have a little bit of time, I just want you to sit back. If you got about 45 minutes, I want to talk about the trials and tribulations of being a third-generation superstar. No? No, Johnny, no? My wife's sick of hearing that story anyway. So we'll move along. I was privileged growing up in the wrestling business. My grandfather, Wild Bull Curry. My father, Flying Fred Curry. Thank you. Got to go up and down the roads with him during the summertime. Watch him wrestle the Sheik. Names like Bobo Brazil on the show, and so many others. And you know, I enjoyed it. I kind of liked it, but he was always talking me out of being in the wrestling business. Forget about the wrestling business, not for you. Are you sure, Dad? Definitely not for you. Okay, so then I went to Ohio State, I played lacrosse there. Afterwards, I kind of got the itch because it was, you know, during the Monday Night Wars. I said, oh boy, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this with my name. Dad, can you train me to be a professional wrestler? And he just looks at me, he goes, no. I'm like, Dad, come on, I can do it. He's like, you don't know a wrist lock from a wrist watch. Forget it, you'll get your ass kicked. Forget it, no. So I begged him for like a month, 2 months. Dad, will you please train me to be a professional wrestler? Finally he says, okay, just leave me alone. So he did. So I got to train with Dad where he would stiffed me accordingly on this plank, awful, uneven ring for about 3 months. He sent me down with Dory Funk Jr. to train in Florida. I was very, very fortunate to do that. So once that was done for a year, I decided to move up to New England and wrestle up here. You know, the Rocket, Fred Curry Jr., all that hype. I got to New England, I'm like, yeah! And so then I got to work with guys like Johnny Idol and Alex Arian and Ron Zombie and Kurt Adonis and Dylan Cage. And I'm like, how was that? Was that good? Yeah, yeah. They were like, no. Particularly Johnny Idol. I probably worked with him 100 times, maybe 100 times, every match. Johnny, how was it? Was it good? No, man. Shit. I'm like, why? And then it would occur to me as I was wrestling matches with him, when he would try to make me look like $1 million, and I say, try, did a great job, and then he'd be sitting there selling. He would look at me and go, sell, kid, sell. Then years later, when I worked with you again, I was wrestling Ruth Starr, who you were managing, and I'll never forget, Ruth Starr was peppering me up a little bit, and I was, you know, doing what I was supposed to do, and Johnny was looking at me from the apron. He goes, are you selling? Like in shock. Are you selling? Yes, Johnny, yes. And that's the thing about professional wrestling for us, like many of you have touched upon. It's up and down the road. It's developing friendships, developing ties, and learning. Always learning from each other, how to be better wrestlers, how to be better people, and never forgetting what you're going through together, and always giving the crowd every bit of you, every time you can, and that's a special thing. So I want to thank all of you. I want to congratulate all the other inductees, all the other honorees. I won't take too much more of your time. I just want to thank my wife Tara, who's here tonight. Thank you, baby. I love you very much. I want to thank my good friends, Kurt Adonis, Ron Zombie, and the Revolution. Chris Venom walked in. I don't know if anybody saw him. And I see you over there, Sonny. Don't worry, I still want to make out with that guy. I want to mention my brother, Kid Curry, Nick Curry. He's an up-and-comer. He's trained really hard. He's doing very well, and he's taking bookings now, 99% heat-free. And in closing, I want to thank my father. My father, Flying Fred Curry. Behind me every second of my life. Whether I was in college, whether I was wrestling, every second of my life, he's like, you could be a doctor, a lawyer, I'm behind you all the way. Guess what, Dad? I run a bar now, so. You learn one thing at The Ohio State University, it's about alcohol. But Dad, without you, I wouldn't be here right now. And I love you very much, and thank you. And thank you, Joe. Thank you to the New England Hall of Fame. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's now time for the New England Icon Award. This is to honor somebody for excellence in professional wrestling in the New England area. And our recipient, unfortunately, is not here. And it's Howard Finkel, who could not be here tonight. So a big round of applause for Howard. Howard Finkel is the longest tenured employee at World Wrestling Entertainment, being hired in 1975. He became the ring announcer at Madison Square Garden in January of 1977. He came up with the name WrestleMania. He's worked in talent relations, he's coordinated travel. He's a member of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2009. Joe had asked me if I would say something personal about Howard. Howard has always treated me as brethren, which means more to me than anybody could ever imagine. I took my son, who was 5 years old at the time, to a convention to meet some wrestlers, and Howard Finkel was there. And me thinking Howard doesn't even know what the hell my name is, I walked up to his table and he said,
right to his age, and he said, "This is Mr. Palladino. He's a member of the fraternity. Whatever he wants signed is absolutely free for he and his son." And that speaks volumes to Howard, and it's just a great memory. And I'm sorry that he couldn't be here today, but we do want to honor him, and I can't rightfully do it, but somebody here can. So I'd like to welcome a two-time Hall of Famer to the stage right now, to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the legendary Four Horsemen, would you please welcome Mr. James J. Dillon.
Wow, I didn't see the lineup for tonight. I just took for granted because I was told this afternoon that Howard couldn't be here tonight, and I thought, oh, good, yeah, that means I'll be able to go on first and enjoy all the other speeches. And I realized I didn't ask when I would be on the list, and now I've listened to all these great speeches, and now I'm up here and I got to try and follow them. And I'm supposed to be someone that's supposed to be gifted in front of a microphone, and I'm lost for words. But when I was called and was told that Howard was being honored here in the New England Hall of Fame, I mean, here's a guy who spent his whole career honoring everybody else, and now he's going to be honored. And then I found this afternoon that because of the family situation, Howard wasn't going to be here tonight. His one night where he's not putting the spotlight on everybody else in the world, he's in the spotlight, he can't be here. But I have had all these comments, and I listened to what everybody else said tonight, and I thought, how in the world am I going to get up there and top that? So I'm going to be brief, and I'm going to speak from the heart, because I've known Howard since he started back in 1975, and he was synonymous with the ring announcer of Madison Square Garden, and he's somebody that took tremendous pride in everything he did, because he really genuinely loved the business. And I know that if there was any possible way, he would want to be here tonight, even though he would be sitting here being kind of embarrassed and about all these things being said about somebody who really wasn't a great institution in our industry. And when I got the call asked if I would do this, I said I would have been, I'm humbled by it being asked, and I would have been hurt and insulted if they'd asked somebody else other than me to do it. So, known Howard all these years, and some of the comments that were made early were some of the things that I could have said about Howard. So I'm just going to share a story that probably nobody in the room knows about, but I was there when it happened. I think I might have shared it with somebody else today. But when we started doing the live Monday Night Raw, it was done from the Manhattan Center in New York City. And the Manhattan Center arena setup is on the 10th floor of the building. So when they set that ring up, they had to take all of the parts of the ring inside a little service elevator, run it up to the 10th floor, set it up. And when you watched it on television, you thought, wow, what a great arena this is. And nobody had any idea of how much trouble was involved to be able to launch that show. A Howard story. Vince McMahon is, I never thought of him as someone that had a sense of humor. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, it's just that he's 24/7 dedicated to this business. He has a yellow tablet sitting at his bedside at night, and if he wakes up with an idea at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he turns on the light, quick writes it down for fear he'll forget it in the morning, turn the light out, and then go back to sleep. That's Vince McMahon, and I had the privilege of being around him. I worked for his father before him, and worked for the WWE in an executive capacity for like 7 or 8 years. So I got to see how really dedicated he was to the business and all the success that he's had, which involves establishing the first really global brand, which is the WWF/WWE. I don't know of anybody else that could do it because he lives and eats this business 24 hours a day. But I had a chance for the almost 8 years that I worked there to be around Howard Finkel a lot. And Howard is somebody who just, to be associated as the ring announcer for Madison Square Garden, if you really stop and think about it, that is a big, big deal. And Howard one time was, in the early days at the Manhattan Center, Vince told Howard, go get your car and park it right outside the front door of the Manhattan Center. Now, as I've said, the matches took place and was live then on the 10th floor of that building. Howard never asked Vince, why do you want me to park my car out front of the building? Howard just, that was his marching orders. He never asked why. He took his car, and it wasn't like a brand new expensive car, but it meant the world to Howard. Everything that Howard had, he worked very hard for and was proud of, and he kept his car meticulous, always washed it and kept the interior clean. So he does as he said, and he parks it out front of the Manhattan Center. I was trying to think who it was. I was sharing the story with somebody, and they told me that it was Curt Hennig and I believe Shawn Michaels. And now this is live. And this is now after Vince has told Howard to park his car right outside the front door. And in the live Raw show that night, Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and Shawn Michaels got into one hellacious fight that started in the ring. It's live television now. And fought up the aisle of that arena out into the lobby where the elevator was. Now we're on the 10th floor. Somebody backed in, their elbow hit the button on the elevator, the doors open, the two of them go into the elevator, a cameraman jumps in, the door closes, they go down 10 stories to the lobby, the fight's still going on, the door opens up, they're now fighting in the lobby, they're fighting outside of the front of the building, and the first move you see, and I don't remember who did it to who, but somebody grabbed somebody by the hair and wham into the passenger door of the car that happened to be parked out front. I'm upstairs watching on the monitor, and sitting next to me is Howard Finkel. And I'm now no longer watching the monitor, I'm watching Howard. And his jaw is hung down because he's looking on television at his car that he parked in front of the building of his own free will, and now watching two seasoned professionals basically demolish his car. They smashed the back window, they smashed the windshield, somebody slammed somebody on the hood, and Vince is just sitting there with a straight face, and Howard is horrified. Finally, Howard looks to Vince and he said, how am I going to get home? That car is not drivable. And Vince with a straight face looks at him and says, don't worry, Howard, we'll get you home somehow. And then Howard said, but my car? Vince said, don't worry, we'll buy you a new car, which he did. But that was my Howard Finkel story, that you had to be there and appreciate the moment. I know that, like I said, Howard honored everybody in our industry over the 40-some years that I've known him. And I know that he would be humbled to be here tonight and have all these people smile when he was finally honored, which he so richly deserved. So I won't take up any more of your time. I've enjoyed the comments of everybody tonight. I sat my way in the back, and I had just, this is like going back in time for me. I heard the name of Killer Kowalski mentioned many times tonight. And I'm giving my age away, but I started as a fan, and I had my first matches in the business in 1968. And I was I talked to the original Sheik when he came east for some matches challenging the then champion Bruno Sammartino, and I was a referee, and there was a time where I thought, well, my dream was to actually be a wrestler someday, but maybe being a referee is as far as my dream is going to carry me. And I was in the dressing room with the original Sheik, Eddie Farhat, and just sharing that story. And he said, man, I promote in Michigan and Ohio. And he said, get your tights and come out. And he said, we'll put you in the ring and see what you can do. And I thought, you know, you hear stories in this business, and then when the time comes, you call, and you either, well, they're tied up at the moment, can you call back later? Or they're called. No, he got on the phone. And I said, you told me that I had a couple of days off. My father worked for General Motors. We lived in New Jersey, but the last 10 years, got transferred to Detroit. So they were living in Detroit, and that's where the Sheik promoted. And I was going to go out there and spend a 4-day weekend with him. Called the Sheik a couple weeks in advance, and I said, I'm coming out there to visit my parents, and you said, and I'm thinking I'm going to hear a story about all the reasons why he couldn't. And the Sheik called my bluff and booked me. So my first matches in this business, and I look back after a career of 50, 60 years, and a lot of people know me as the leader of the Four Horsemen and basically as a manager, but I had over 3,200 professional matches where I put the tights on. And just part of the total of my career, and that weekend in Michigan was the very first time that I got to go in the ring. But I heard Killer Kowalski's name, and the first time that I wrestled was in Dayton, Ohio on a Friday night. I was going to be off Saturday, and then I was going to work the TVs for the Sheik, which he used to record up in Walled Lake, Michigan. And I was talking to somebody, and a guy named Jim Grabmeyer, who was from Ohio. And I said, well, I'll see you guys Sunday. I'm off tomorrow. I'm going to go up visit my parents, and then I'm up there for TV. He said, you're not working tomorrow? I said, no. So we go to Pittsburgh. They always need extra guys for TV. You want to jump in a car and come with us? Wow, yeah. So I jumped in the car, went with him. I got to the TV in Pittsburgh, and there were a couple old timers, Ace Freeman and an old timer named Rudy Miller. They came around and told me that I was going to work on TV in a singles match. I said, oh, great. Who am I wrestling? They said, Killer Kowalski. And I didn't let that sink in at first. And then when the match took place, it was, in all my years in the business, like I said, I ended up having over 3,200 actual matches, the best remembered as a manager. It was the one time where I thought I came the closest to thinking that I might die in the ring. Now, that's not to say that Killer Kowalski was reckless or dangerous. He was the direct opposite. He was very physical, but he didn't do anything. He didn't break any bones. He didn't knock any teeth out. But when he was on you, he was like a pit bull. And when you went down and thought, oh, I got a momentary respite where I can take a deep breath and get some oxygen back in my lungs to keep going, and before I could get that full inhale to get oxygen in, I'd get a big boot in the belly to knock what little air I had in my lungs out. So that's where I thought I would, come as close to dying in the ring. And as I look back, all these years later, I became friends with Walter Kowalski. And if you read my autobiography, it's with great pride that I brag that my first single match in the ring was against Walter Kowalski. And there's a lot of guys who can't say that, and though I thought I might die that day, I look back and say, and I wrestled the Sheik, and I wrestled some famous people. But if I had the choice of all of them, and I could write my own autobiography and not speak in terms of what really happened, but in fantasy, I don't think I could have picked anybody better to have my first single match with Walter Kowalski. He was a Hall of Famer and from 3 points. I've gone off, and I didn't want to go on and get long-winded. Howard's not here tonight, and I know that as much as he's honored everybody else, that there's a good reason that he can't be here tonight. So I was called and asked to come here, and I told him that I came in. I was so excited to come, finally pay tribute to Howard that's honored everybody else by coming in here a day early, so that I knew that I would be here, wouldn't have travel complications, and being here tonight has been it's, you know, I've experienced everything in the business, and I'm proud that I have a couple of Hall of Fame rings, but that's not what my whole life and career has been about. I hear all these other stories of how everybody paid their dues, myself included. And I was fortunate enough to be the right place, the right time, which is everybody that has any success in this business has to love it. And then you have to be dedicated, because there's going to be more disappointments and heartaches than there are going to be moments of success and feeling good. But if you love it and you persevere and you hang in long enough, good things can happen to you, but there is that luck factor. And some guys love it as much as I did, gave it every bit more, as much as I did and more, and never had the rewards that I was benefited with. And I'm humbled by that. I don't feel that I'm any special person or better than anybody else because I've got a couple Hall of Fame rings. I just was very lucky, in the right place, the right time. And I loved the business and was never too embarrassed or proud to admit that I was a kid at 16 years old and discovered professional wrestling, dreamed that someday I could do it. And I live in a country where dreams can come true, and I'm living proof of that. So, this is not about me, it's about Howard. He's a very, very dear friend, and he so enjoys this honor, and my only disappointment is that he's not here tonight where I could put my arm around a guy who truly is a friend that has given everything to the business, and on the one night that he finally was in the spotlight, he couldn't be here. But I appreciate that you're here, and I wish that everybody would please give a hand to Howard.
Here to induct Ricky Sexton into the class of 2018. Please welcome the Professor Tom Burke.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's when I got the call from Joe Bruin to asking me to induct Ricky Sexton, I jumped at the chance, because I've known Ricky for close to 45 years or so. Ricky and I have a lot in common. We're both baby boomers, born when Harry S. Truman was president, thank God. We are both members of that baby boomer generation, a time when not everyone had TVs. We didn't have a TV in my family till I was in first grade. And when I mentioned that to Ricky, he said he didn't have a TV in his home till he was in second grade. So I beat him on that one. And on that TV, we didn't have 105 stations. We only had 3 stations. Now, I live in Springfield, Mass, and Ricky lived in the Worcester area. And we used to watch TV every Saturday afternoon, watching, in our preteen years, Bedlam from Boston, promoted by the wrestling czar, Paul Bowser. In that year, 1958, when you tuned in on the black and white TV, you saw the likes of Pat O'Connor, Killer Kowalski, Edward Carpentier, Bill and Dan Miller, the Masked Marvel and his manager, Boris K. Fabian, Mr. Moto, Mr. Hito, and Boston's own Frank Scarpa. The death of Paul Bowser was in 1960. That ended the TV era. His protege, and also his rival promoter at the time, Eddie Quinn, continued to promote in the Boston area and other areas in Massachusetts. However, due to health issues with Eddie Quinn and an intriguing investigator by the FBI for involvement with the family in boxing, he left New England and returned to Montreal. Tony Santos was also running at the time. Santos had started in the early 50s using local talent and having top guys from the Paul Bowser promotion on his shows as well. I attended those matches as well as Ricky Sexton. Ricky attended the weekly matches on Tuesday night at the Mechanics Hall in Worcester. As Ricky started to hang out, He started helping out setting up the ring. He started to get involved in wrestling. He started to learning how to wrestle through the Santos promotion. And he also learned the structure of rings. A side note, he actually built wrestling rings. He first started wrestling for Tony Santos during the years when John F. Kennedy was president. He wrestled under the name of Nature Boy Rico. He took that name all the way to California. However, the promoter in California, Cal Eaton, who was running the LA promotion at the time, decided to change his name to Ricky Sexton, since Cal Eaton thought he looked like Frank Sexton. He wrestled in Los Angeles for several months, meeting such guys as Alberto Torres, the Korean champion Kentaro Oki, the Hangman, the Destroyer, Kobe Bob Ellis, and also you have some another New Englander, Chris Belkis, who was also working in the area at the time. By early 1965, he returned to New England. He ended up working back with Santos for a little while, and they needed a substitute on a match in the Lowell area that was being promoted by Abe Ford. Ricky went to the show. He substituted for the guys. The WWF agent liked what he saw, talked to Ricky, and Ricky started to working for the WWF for a number of years. By 1968-69, he returned back to Massachusetts and homesteaded. And that's where he stayed, and he continued to work local shows and everything. Ricky's talent not included, as I said, wrestling on the mat, but also making rings. He was traveling, when he was wrestling for the WWF, he was wrestling with guys like Dr. Jerry Graham, Gorilla Monsoon, Wild Red Berry, Hans Mortier, and Tony Marino. Then he returned to Massachusetts, as I said, where he homesteaded. He is now involved, continues with wrestling, with Showcase as a mentor and manager for his son, Richie Rich. And I'd like to present this award. Sad to say Ricky is unable to be here because of a family situation, but Rich is going to accept it for him. Richie.
Our next inductee is the Golden Greek, Alex Arion. Sometime in 1997 or 98, I was ring announcing for my mentor, Tony Rumble. Max, wait till I call you up. And I met Alex Arion for the first time, and I said, what's your name? Any nickname? And he said, yeah, the Golden Greek. And Sheldon Goldberg, who was helping out at Tony Rumble's show, said, anybody that uses John Tolis's nickname is all right with me. So, the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, and very excited to induct Alex Arion, ladies and gentlemen, the former Mohawk enforcer, now just a very large enforcer, my good friend Max Bauer.
Hello, everybody. All right. First, thank you, Rich. Iron Man announcer this evening, as tends to be the case. One of my favorite people in New England, so really good to see you. I came ill-prepared, but I came enthusiastic. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been really great to see some people I haven't got to see in a few years. And I've been really struck by a lot of the stories that everyone's been sharing with loved ones and friends and relationships that made, marriages, and a litter of children. It's pretty cool. I personally haven't been involved in wrestling for a little while now. And to kind of come full circle and come back to this group of people and to see some familiar faces and to share stories and hear other people share theirs, it's been really cool. And the thing that's brought me back is connection. And it's connection to any number of the people in this building, but very specifically tonight, for me, it's not about the pro wrestler, Alex Arion. It's about my very dear friend, Alex. And it's specifically Sonny Goodspeed, because holy shit, I'm so excited to see you. week before I started wrestling, I went to an event in Wakefield. And I actually don't even know if I've even told you this, but I'm pretty sure it was in Wakefield High School. And you were wrestling who I think was Louis Ortiz. I actually don't remember. I'm pretty sure you got hurt in the match, which is totally typically you. But to have that experience before I started wrestling, and then a few years later to actually get to meet you and share road trips and share the ring, you were always one of the first people who I considered a professional wrestler who I knew personally. You know, people who I came up with and started with were always my friends and always people I loved to work with and to travel with. And I think everyone has a person that they kind of put on that pedestal as a leader or as a mentor. And I think first for me really was you, Al. And so I really have always appreciated being able to share car rides and pick your brain and talk wrestling and go out and have a drink and talk shit as we do. And it's been really special to have those memories. And more important to me, kind of coming again full circle with everybody else, is beyond the wrestling business is just life. And it's the connections we make and the friends that we keep. And in this business, I don't know how often we get to keep friends forever. And there's a very limited number of people who I get to share that relationship with beyond the wrestling business. And I think when you find those relationships, it's really special. And so for me, it's not just an honor and a pleasure. I'm really jazzed to be here tonight with you. And I'm really excited that we're spending a few minutes to talk about all the great things that many people have done, but very specifically you. And I think that there are many deserving people in this room. There is no one more deserving to be inducted into this class. And I think that anyone who's had the chance to share the ring with Al knows. Potatoes is someone who's probably shared the ring more than anyone with Alex is actually Brian Fury. Great tan, by the way. You look good, man. He does. He doesn't even wrestle anymore. You totally threw me off, man. Damn. Yeah, typical. I didn't have anything planned, so you can't really throw me off. But what I'll finish by saying is that connection, that feeling, that larger-than-life thing that we all feel that keeps bringing us back to the New England Wrestling Hall of Fame or to the next Chaotic Wrestling show, cheap plug. That connection, that ability to lose yourself, Alex did it every goddamn night. And I've never seen somebody who can go out every night in front of 20 people or 200 and just get lost in it. And in my limited experience, I think that that's special. And I think that if you ever got the chance to not just watch him wrestle, but to be in the ring with him and participate in it, a really special talent. And I cherish memories in the Brockton gym and in Quincy for Uncle Sheldon and, any number of other opportunities we've had, both just being foolish and having a good time, but really just losing myself in this wonderful thing that we all do and brings us all together. So first and foremost, thank you. And I hope that we'll all give a round of applause for my dear friend, Alex Arion, as we induct him into the 2018 class.
Hi, everybody. So I'm not going to follow what anybody else said. Everybody that has spoken up here tonight, awesome. I got into wrestling because I wanted to make people feel the way I felt when I first watched it. I got fired up when I saw a babyface or a good guy that I liked. And those heels, those bad guys that I hated, I wanted to make people feel that, and that's what I tried to do every time I got in the ring. I didn't care about being rich or famous or anything like that. If that happened, bonus, but it didn't.
I just wanted to make people have a good time because I was having a blast. Like Max said, I got lost in it. And anytime I got out there, it was real for me. So thank you, Joe, for recognizing me, having me here tonight. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Right now, it's all about the firebrand Brian Fury. So Brian has retired from active competition. He is the owner of the New England Pro Wrestling Academy in North Andover, Massachusetts. He is now the owner of Chaotic Wrestling, which means my longtime friend is now my boss. So I'll keep that nice, short, and sweet. But here to induct Brian Fury into the Hall of Fame is the king of dad style. It's that guy, Scotty Slade.
I got to watch all these speeches and try to figure out exactly what I was going to say. Because Joe actually messaged me and he says, listen, you got to come up and say the best thing about Brian Fury. Unfortunately, the best thing is actually his fiancée, Nikki, so I really don't know where to go from here. But no, all kidding aside, to kind of know where Brian got to this point, you have to know his mentor. And his mentor was none other than mofo Steve Bradley. And so Brian really wanted to become just like Steve, because when Steve entered a room, he had that aura of respect. And that's exactly what Brian wanted. Not because Brian's an egomaniac, and we all know he is. It's because he wanted that aura that he was contributing to New England wrestling, that he was adding something to the business that we're all here for. And along the way, Brian Fury has done just that. Steve Bradley was able to run a school, so Brian Fury's now running a school. Steve Bradley ran the WFA, so now Brian Fury's running Chaotic Wrestling. Brian Fury's love for his students is kind of what keeps him going, along with Nikki keeping me in check. But as much love as Brian has for the business, and as much love as Brian may give off, outside of wrestling, on the other hand, he's an asshole. Anytime that Brian can kind of make you feel uncomfortable, squeamish, anything of that nature, he's going to take full advantage of it. A very brief story of that is him and Eddie Edwards would always have this spot where Brian would decide to go down and tie his shoe, and Eddie would just run right towards him. And all of a sudden, Brian seamlessly would give Eddie a big back body drop. But this was also in a mall at a Santa's Village in front of a bunch of children waiting to see Santa. At a wrestling show, they probably get a big pop, but let me tell you, their faces said otherwise. But about 8 years ago, I was not wrestling anymore. I was kind of done doing all this, and Brian kind of gave me a call and said that there was more to do and I should come back. Along the way, I watched Straight Edge Brian Fury evolve into Firebrand. I was able to watch him become sort of a vision of Steve, and even now, without naming all of the people on his resume, you can see who he's touched, who he's influenced, and kind of who he's trained, whether it is local New Englanders, whether it's people that travel across the world, or even people that perform on the highest platform there is in the WWE. And along those 8 years, I think I grew closer, a lot closer to Brian. And I know he's got this tough exterior, and I know he wants to get up here because for the last 3 months he's been writing his acceptance speech, but for the tough exterior that he has, it's my honor, for somebody whose favorite network is HDTV, for somebody who loves Broadway musicals, and somebody who will never turn down a foot massage and foot spa day, none other than, I'm his best friend, he's not mine, the Firebrand, Brian Fury.
Originally, I was just going to roast everybody, and then on the drive here, my fiance told me I'm absolutely not allowed to do that, so you are all safe. Everything that I had written is now in the trash, because I still want to get married in October, so that's not happening. I started wrestling in 1999 by Jeff Costa, the Lobster Man, Rip Morrison, and Maverick Wild. And time-honored tradition is while you are training, you are a referee. And so my first time in a wrestling ring during a show, I was a referee, and the match that I refereed was the Lobster Man versus Homozuna. And I decided, I don't know if this is really for me. I don't know if this is the place for me to train. But I stayed there for another 3 years, and I owe a lot of my wrestling knowledge to those three guys. And then I started training with Steve Bradley. And for those of you Steve Bradley, obviously, huge influence on me, huge influence on my good friend and another mentor of mine, Alex Arion, and a man that I actually inducted into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2009. 2009. Like Scotty said, you know, I kind of modeled a lot of myself in my career after that man, and that means I am mean, I am angry, I am a jerk to a lot of people, but I'm very driven and I'm very focused and I have a vision and I'll do whatever it takes to get those things done. Just like Steve, that's kind of the way I've modeled myself in my career, for better or worse. So that being said, I just kind of want to throw some thank yous out there because I don't want to be up here all night. I know I'm here late and you guys have heard 1,000,001 names. So a couple thank yous, obviously. People like Alex, who taught me how to be a babyface, whether he realizes it or not. He was probably my greatest opponent and my final opponent, actually, when I retired. Justin McIsaac, or Justin Shape, Justin Powers, who was my very first match ever. Revolution Chris Venom, who was my tag team partner in Adrenaline when all the top spots in New England were held by the same four people in every promotion. Chris Venom and I decided that there's no way we're going to get there until they retire, so we decided to go the tag team route and kind of made names for ourselves that way and broke off and both kind of did all right for ourselves, I think. And then the list goes on to anybody that I shared the ring with, to later on people like Jim Mikowski, an adult, I'm not going to say his whole name, who kind of helped me in my last phase of my career in chaotic wrestling, kind of helped me keep going after I was somewhat lost when Steve stopped running and whatnot. The people that I've met in this business and become friends with in this business, they're, you know, that's been my life. Pro wrestling has been everything to me. Anybody that knows me knows, you know, I just work part-time, whatever random jobs to make sure that I could continue teaching at the school. I could continue making my bookings and whatnot. And my students have been really what kept me going the last, I want to say, like 8 years. It's weird that I'm getting emotional because I love my students more than, you know, I love anything that I did in my own career. As much as I loved being out in front of the crowd and getting the pops and all that stuff, it means so much more to me to see people that dreamed and wanted to be professional wrestlers live that through me helping them get there. So thank you to every single one of my students that's ever stepped foot in the ring at my school. You guys keep me young even though I'm old, and Joe put me in the front row because I have trouble hearing apparently. I got to be in front of the speaker. Lastly, thank you to my fiance Nikki for keeping me very grounded and humble, even though I could be a complete asshole and nobody really here probably thinks I am humble. I'd be way worse if it wasn't for her. Thank you all for coming out to this. I really appreciate it. I love you all.
First of all, I'm very happy to see this gentleman here tonight. Another Killer Kowalski trained Perry Saturn, ladies and gentlemen. And here to induct Perry Saturn into the Hall of Fame is the Extreme Enforcer. Please welcome back the one, the only, Paul Richard. Brother.
ever think this would happen. I remember I was working for Vince, I was away, and I came home and Kowalski called me. He says, listen, I got this guy, he's from Ohio. He's kind of skinny, he's all tattooed, and he looks like a biker. And he drove up here in his Mustang with no back windshield. And he's sleeping in his car because he wants to become a professional wrestler. Which was a lot of people that way too, but it was just something about Perry. So Kowalski says, he's working at a strip joint in Peabody. You need to go see him and talk to him. He goes, I think he could be the next one. He just has that talent. So I went and met Perry and we talked and became best of friends for many, many years, traveled with ECW and everything for a long time. It's an honor to be standing here today to induct Perry Saturn into the class of 2018. You know, he's had such a great career, such a great role model of someone to come from Kowalski, who I've heard over and over again tonight. Let's give Kowalski a big round of applause, because he's been mentioned so much tonight by so many people. He has influenced our business so much over all these years, and we miss him all the time, but we all carry on his tradition as students of Kowalski. And that's something to be damn proud of. So anyway, without talking too long, I'd like to induct into the class of 2018, Perry Saturn.
Last time I was in a room with this many people staring at me, it was an intervention, so give me a minute. I'm gonna be real quick. Thank you, goodbye. Hey, all the times I talk to Walter, one of the things that I'll never forget, he'd say, God damn it, you gotta make the people notice you. So thanks for noticing me, and really, that's it.
And the next inductee is Pretty Paul Roma. We talk about a guy that's done everything in this business. Paul Roma's that. He's got the most patient kids in the world. But hold on. I was just putting over your kids. They've been, I'm honest to God, I have 12-year-old twins at home. I've never seen such well-behaved children in my life. Oh my God. You're an angel, my friend. But here to induct Paul Roma into the Hall of Fame is his fellow brethren from Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, a New England Hall of Famer, please welcome the one, the only Mario Mancini.
Roma stole some of my thunder, but I'd not prepared anyway. Just a couple things. To talk about how humble Howard Finkel is, I did a fan fest with him in 2014 when I was inducted, and a bunch of fans were around his table, and I said, you know, he coined the phrase WrestleMania. And Howard quickly went into his pocket and pulled out 3 quarters and said, I have a few coins in my pocket too. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was. He just was really humble. He just didn't care. For Ray, I love Ray. I was Ray's debut match in the WWF. I was the first guy I ever worked with there. And I'm not going to lie, I was scared to death, you know, because he was huge, and, you know, he just really, his face was always beet red, and I thought he was going to kill me. But he was good. We became friends, and I remember one day when I came back to the dressing room and I sat down and I was huffing and puffing, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, Sidney, you're the best damn jobber I've ever seen in my life." And I said, "Ray, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult." And he got up and gave me a hug, he said, "I love you, brother." That was a compliment, Ray just loved everybody. I miss him to death. I miss him singing in the dressing room and cracking his jokes, and he was just a great guy. Great guy, Ray. You are going to find out things about Paul Roma that you don't know. But you're going to understand. Because some people did my job for me tonight. Some people that were inducted that looked over and said, Paul Roma. They got it. Paul Roma marches to his own beat of his own drum. He always has and he always will. And if you don't hear that beat, you're not gonna get Paul Roma, and you never will. Back in 1984, you see, people, I have to digress a little bit because at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, where I have 5 partners, and one of it being Paul Roma, and Paul Roma being the face of Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, I try to teach Mr. Dillon, I try to teach the students about back then, pre-WrestleMania 1, but they don't listen. They don't listen. So when I start saying back in 84 and back in 85, they get a good rib out of me. So back in 1984, and if my memory is correct, and it usually is, we were in Trumbull, Connecticut. Gino Carabello and I were with the WWF, and for some reason the WWF never gave us a hard time. We worked one independent show for one guy, and that guy's name was Rocco LaPenta. He was out of Avon, Connecticut, and Tony Altomar, who was working for Titan Sports for The Office, he would co-promote these shows with Rocco LaPenta. And Gino Carabello and I were in the dressing room, and I believe it was an elderly boxing manager or trainer walked in, and behind him was this Greek god carved out of stone. And I looked, and he walked like anything in front of him would just blow up into smithereens. And I looked at Gino and I said, "Who the hell is that?" And he said, "I have no idea." I goes, "Guy's got to be a professional bodybuilder." A couple weeks later, Paul Roma came to the wrestling school. Now, when I tell you that I went to professional wrestling school my senior year of high school, from October of 1983 until July of 1984, that's 10 months. Paul Roma, I've said on podcasts, TV interviews, radio interviews, the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life, came into that wrestling school, and 6 weeks later, he was sitting in Poughkeepsie. 6 weeks. So we're sitting there in Poughkeepsie. Now, Roma's a shoot. He's a pure shoot. He knows nothing. He knows zero about professional wrestling. He's not a fan of professional wrestling. He's never watched professional wrestling. He has no clue. He's a pure shoot. We're sitting in the dressing room, and he's sitting there, and Hulk Hogan walks by. He looks at me and he goes, "Who's that?" I go, "That's Hulk Hogan." He goes, "Who's he?" I go, "He's the heavyweight champion." He goes, he looks Hogan up and down and he goes, "He's fat."
guy's gonna get heat right away, right? I'm beside myself, you know. He knew nothing. Paul Roma strives to be the best. If you can't be the best, you're nothing. The determination in him, the fire in his eyes. I was 18, he was 25. And to see him come back into the dressing room with a murderous look in his face, because at that point, he was doing what I was doing. At some point, he wasn't anymore. I kept doing it, but he wasn't doing it anymore. So we would get in the car, and he would be sick to his stomach. I mean, he would be in rage. And like I said, he was a shoe. And he'd look at me and he'd go, "You don't understand. I take this guy in the street. I'll kick his ass right in the street." I go, "Roma, that's you know, that's not the business, you know. But he can't beat me." I go, "Yeah, but you just got to do it for a little while." Because as I sat in that dressing room with Hogan and all the other guys, I looked at Roma, and no one looked like Roma. No one. And I knew he would become something big. You're talking about a man with no bloodline. He had no bloodline in the business. No generation. He wasn't 6'8". And he's a heterosexual male. So he had no way but him. And by God, he made it. He made it the hard way on his own talent, with his own determination. I've known Paul for 34 years. And it's been an honor and a privilege to know him and work with him. Well, wait a minute. See, I walked into New Haven Coliseum one day. I wasn't booked. I think it was 1987. Chief Jay Strongbow was my second father. So I arrived to the New Haven Coliseum with a sausage and pepper wedge for him because he's Italian. And it was about 5:30 and I was starving, and I said, "Chief, I'm going to go out and get something to eat. I'll be back," because I was just saying hi to the boys. Roma, he's my brother. So I came back after an hour. Chief's got his hand to his head. He goes, "Well, thank God you got back here, kid. I'm short. Get dressed." Now, back in the 80s, I ate about $26 worth of Chinese food. So I said, "Chief, who am I working with?" He goes, "Roma." I go, "Work with Roma? I don't care. He's my brother." So I go walking into Roma and all smiles. I go, "Hey, man, we're working together." He's, "Yeah." I go, "Man, I just ate a ton of Chinese food." It's my brother. He goes, "You have two choices. You could put your finger down your throat and throw up here, or you can throw it up there." And I looked at him and I went, what, ribbing me. He's ribbing me. So we go in the ring in front of 15,000 people in that house show, and he starts hitting the ropes. He starts crisscrossing. I'm standing there. So what are you going to do? I started crisscrossing with him, and he wouldn't stop crisscrossing. I'm waiting for him to drop down in front of me. I said, "Screw it, I'm going to drop down in front of him." But I knew I couldn't, because I can't leapfrog and I can't drop kick. Somebody was inducted tonight and said, "You drop kick him in the," I drop kick you right in the kneecaps. I actually drop kicked Don Morocco in the kneecaps once. So I knew I couldn't do that. So he finally dropped down. I hit the other rope. He leapfrog drop kicked me. I took a powder, went outside the ring, picked up the ring apron, and lost all the Chinese food underneath the ring. Went back into the ring and had a great match, and I went back in the dressing room. The chief went, "You're going to clean that up, right?" Said, "Yeah, Chief." "You're not going to make the ring guys do that, right? That's not right." "No, Chief, I'll clean it up." you know, there was, Curtis Lee was the guardian angel, you know, New York City. His wife, Lisa, decided she wanted to become a professional wrestler. And they all came to the wrestling school where the gym is, and Mean Gene Okerlund was there, and everybody was there, and Gene said, "Hey, Mario, you want to get in the ring with Lisa?" I said, "Sure." I get in her, "Will you let her hip toss you?" I go, "Sure. I'm putting everybody over anyway." I'd put the concession guy over, I didn't care. So anyway, she gives me the hip toss, and Gene Okerlund goes, "Mario Mancini, what do you think of Lisa Sliwa?" And I went, "Well, Gene, she's tough." So Gene goes, "I got a good idea. Roma's out there working out. Why don't you get Roma in the ring with her?" I'm 19. I go, "Sure." Roma's doing tricep pushdowns. I don't know, the pin on the bottom, 245s on top of it, whatever. He's going. So I go up to Roma. I go walking up to him. "Hey, Roma." "Yeah." "Mean Gene wants you to get in the ring with Lisa Sliwa." He goes, "Mancini, get away from me." I go, "No, Roma, it'll be good for you. Get in the ring with Lisa. He wants you to get in the ring with Lisa." He goes, "Mancini, get away from me." I go, "Come on, Roma." Before he did a spinning back kick, came this close to my face. I swear to God, I thought he was going to take my head off. That's my brother. There's a reason for these stories. When I say Roma marches to his own beat, there were people up here tonight, you know, dedicating some of their career to him, his teachings. Paul Roma loves professional wrestling. Paul Roma's put his life into professional wrestling. If you don't understand him, I'm sorry. But I do. And he's got the heart of a giant. And the thunder that he did steal from me is he didn't get into wrestling for fame. He got into wrestling to help children. He's dedicated most of his time as a professional wrestler to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. The funny part about the people that meet Paul Roma and walk away and go, "Oh, jeez." It's only because Paul Roma does what a lot of us don't have the nerve to do. And that's tell it exactly the way it is. He doesn't pull any punches. He tells you exactly what he feels and exactly what he's thinking. And he prides his life on it. Because that's how his father raised him. And there was no man greater in his life than his father. So it's been my honor and my privilege. You know, a lot tonight, people are talking about, "Hey, man, I'm so glad I get to see you tonight. I'm so glad I get to see you tonight." You know, in 2015, Steve Tracy called me up, and he said, "Hey, man, you want to open up a pro wrestling school?" I said, "Yeah." "You think Roma want to do it?" "No, let me text him." "Hey, Roma." "Yep." "Hey, you want to open up a wrestling school?" "Yep." Those were the two words he said to me, YEP. But I said, "Roma's in." He's given his life to the wrestling school. He's a devout husband, a devout father. And he's got a big heart. And if you come to Paul Roma for help, he'll help you. So after all these years and the stereotyping that some people might have of him, here's the secret to Paul Roma: loyalty. It's my honor and my privilege to induct into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2018, my brother Paul Roma.
I don't have any stories from 1985, so no take it home, guys, okay? And that's another good point. I can't remember them. I'm humbled. I really am. Everything Mario said was pretty spot on. I do tell it like it is. I really appreciated everything he said, and some of what you guys said was great, really. And then what's really nice about it is that you brought it up, you know, and it says a lot. It really does. I already talked for Ray. One thing I had told him was, if people can't take the time to get to know who and what I am, then I don't have time for them. And I stick by that. I really do. I give people all the time in the world, and kids, forget it. I'll do anything for kids. But again, there's a reason. Mario hit on it. I said it before. Power and Glory forever. The best, the greatest tag team that they just couldn't stop. That's all I know. That's all they'll ever be. Ray, there he is. He's always with me. Always. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And this has been a lot of fun. We've got one more to go, and that's the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. I'll never forget when I started watching wrestling in 1978, Jimmy Valiant said, "Daddy, we look good, we smell good, baby, we even taste good." And I was 8 years old. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I like it. I like it a lot. So here to induct Jimmy Valiant is historian extraordinaire, a gentleman that was a guest at my wedding many, many years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sheldon Goldberg.
Thank you so much. Just quickly, before I get into the most important business at hand, what a great thing to be here tonight. I'm so proud that pretty much every one of our local New England inductees worked either for me or with me at some one time or another, and I'm so proud of every single one of them. If I could get one wish, is that God will grant me the years and the health and the good fortune to be able to help along the next generation of New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famers. Please, God, give me that opportunity. Thank you. One thing that we all have in common is that before any of this, before we get involved in any of this, we're all fans of professional wrestling. Aaron was talking about how he saw Jimmy Valiant on TV, the Valiant Brothers on TV, and he became hooked on pro wrestling. So many of us grew up with that generation of stars. They paved the way for all of us. If it wasn't for gentlemen like our next inductee, none of us would be here today. And you know, you look at Jimmy Valiant and you look at the career that he's had, he is the very definition of a Hall of Famer. He excelled as a singles wrestler. He excelled as a tag team wrestler. He excelled as a hero. He excelled as a villain. He even had a hit record in Memphis, Tennessee, when regional hit records in the music business were almost completely unheard of. That is over, folks. That is the definition of over. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud and so happy to be standing here today to induct the next inductee into the class of 2018 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, a most deserving and indeed true Hall of Famer, the Boogie Woogie Man himself, Jimmy Valiant. Give it up.
Listen, handsome Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man feel good. Yeah, baby. Yes, sir. Hey, Shelton. Come here, man. Hey, give it up for Shelton one time, man. Hey, y'all, you know he's got some good sugar on him too, man. Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, God bless you, man. Thank you for that introduction, man. Yay. Hey, guys, you know, real fast, man. Hey, I want everybody to give a big ovation for Big Joe Bruin. Please. He's not only one of the greatest announcers, but the greatest promoter. And I'm telling you, man, hey, what he tells you is gospel, you take it to the bank. I'm telling you, man. You know, I only worked for Vince Sr., you know, in the 70s. I was WWF there 3 different times. And, man, just like JJ said, hey, man, you know, guys, hey, you guys are out there doing, well, I'm still out there doing the weekend war just like you all, you know. But hey, it's just timing, man. Hey, you guys are so talented, man. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed everybody's speech, everybody's deal, man. And you all can do it. Hey, you all get up every morning, you put your pants on one leg at a time, just like Flair, just like The Rock, man, just like whoever, you know. You're just the same exact thing they're doing as, you know, just on a smaller scale. I'm telling you, and I'm so proud. I got so much respect, man. You know, I've been on the big time, you know, for 30 years, and I've been on independent for another 30 years. I started wrestling in 1964, whatever that is, and I'm still lacing my boots up, you know. Yes. You know, the only thing I've ever done in my life is professional wrestling, man, and it fed 3 of my families. I mean, it was my fault, man. I was married one time, 17 years to my first lady, got children, lovely children. The second one, 13 years, and I got a real angel now, guys, and 27 years we've been together, and yes, I love married life, man, you know. But that road, it was my fault, guys, the other 2, and I admit it in my autobiography. My autobiography it's called Road Messy Daddy, Welcome My World, the Jimmy Valiant story. It was 600 pages, man, it's hardback. And I tell people, I say, hey, buy your 2 copies, put one in each hand and work out with them, man. You look like Roma, man, you know, yeah, before long, brother, man. And, hey, guys, you know, it's just, timing, man. I was so fortunate. J.J. Dillon, so fortunate, man. And any of you guys, man, this cat here, man, he looks like a movie star. He's a heartthrob, man. I mean, you know, hey, it's just a different time, you know, and you got to be in the right place, right time, and it'll happen. But you're living your dream, man. Hey, I'm still living. All I want to do myself is just be a goodwill ambassador for this great business of ours, you know. And, you know, I know a lot of you guys got wrestling schools, man. This is fabulous, man. I just heard a brother talking about it, man, and he choked up, man, you know. And, hey, I understand, brother, man, because I have one myself for 27 years, guys, you know, that I've been running the Boogie's Wrestling Camp Hall of Fame Museum. Hey, Joe, and I want to tell you something right here, brother. I know a good place to put it, you know, is one of my walls. I got the 5 or 6 different buildings, you know, and they're covered with thousands of pictures. 27 years, you know, I've been working on this, and it's just like you just said, son, you know, we've already done our thing, you know, and now it's our students' time, you know, to live out their dream, make their dream come true, you know. And it just thrilled me, man, when you choked up, because I feel the same way, you know. 27 years of this, and I'm just going to continue, and I'm still out there doing it, man. Hey, and I don't care. I tell the people, hey, man, you want me to lace up my boots? I'll wrestle. I'll be a manager for tonight. I'll be a special referee. I'll rip tickets. I'll pop popcorn. Hey, I'll do anything, man. I'll do anything. I swear to God I will, you know. I just love this business. And, you know, I never had a job in my life, guys. I started just a young kid, and I'm 75 years old, guys. I was born in 1964. I was born 1942, but I started in 1964, and so that's 53 years or whatever. And again, man, you know, this is the greatest thing. When I was in grade school, you know, my favorite class or favorite subject was recess, you know. I play, man, I play. And then I found a profession that, hey, I still playing, you know what I mean? I play, you know. My angel, you know, I got our compound up there. We're building our dream home, and that's another reason I'm still out there putting the boots, lacing them up, is because we're building a home. She says, Boogie, I'd like to build a little cabin, you know, on our, I said, where, baby? He said, you know, up on the top of the mountain. And I said, okay, honey. I says, but we can't, hey, man, that was 10 years ago. We broke ground on her birthday, and I gave it 10 years because we're doing it as we can. And it'll be 10 years this August, and we're not quite right, but it's almost there, maybe one more year, and then I'm going to hang them up. But, yeah, if God lets me, you know, you know, you got to have goals, guys, and I still set goals. And I know I said if the Lord lets me become 75 last August the 6th, I says, you know, I'm gonna throw my razor away, Angel, and start my beard again. So I did, and it's like 10 months now, you know, and so hey, I was Handsome Jimmy half my career, and then the Boogie Woogie Man, and I had the big long beard, and yeah, it's gonna come back now, man, you know, and but hey, I love to shave, man, you know, but hey, I just shave my legs now, you know, but no. But that don't matter, brother, man, you know, it's all good. We're all God's children, and you know, I wake up every morning, and you know, I says, thank you, Jesus, praise the Lord, and I say, Godspeed to all, and that one prayer, I say that 20 times a day, guys, or more, you know. I say it to myself silent, I say it out loud. Man, I drink 2 gallons of water a day. I just, you know, do my water deal, and I take the water to bed with me, man, you know, and I put it on the nightstand, and every hour, you know, I got to go to the Johnny, man. I just get up and go to the Johnny, and then I go, gonk, 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 and bing, and I go back out, but the Lord lets me do that. If I couldn't go back to sleep, hey, I wouldn't do it, you know. I'd just do it during the day, man. But there'd be a lot of water during the day. But that's, you got to have goals, guys. Set goals in your life, and you know, continue, you know, with your goals, and you'll meet them. You'll meet them. Work hard, and it'll all happen, guys. And you know, I have so much respect for the boys out there, you know, that is out there doing the thing, man, because. You know, I take the young kids, and brother, this is a rough business, man. This is a rough life, you know, and I tell you, it's not for everybody, but man, once you get hooked and once you get it going on, hey, it's happening, man, you know, and you can't get it out of your blood, and this is all you want to do, and it's so cool, you know, to be able to. You know, start your camp, son, like you did, and just continue, you know, training and living through your kids, man. You know, that's great, brother. But hey, man, hey, I don't know. I just love you all, man, and Big Joe, man. You know, I tell you, yeah. What I said, I real fast. I was with Vince McMahon Sr. 3 different times over a year each time, 15 months, guys, and I'm telling you, he says, Jimmy, I want you to come back every 3-4 years, and I was there in 1970, 71, and then came back with Johnny. God bless Johnny, my brother. God bless him. Yes, give it up. Luscious Johnny. Woo, mercy, man. Yeah, God bless. Just breaks my heart. Hey, guys, real fast, too.
Well, Big Joe, he's just like Vince McMahon Senior. I'm telling you, he's gold, baby. He's gold. I just love him. But real fast, you know, guys, if you see somebody, because man, we were losing the legends, man. If you Wahoo McDaniel, a Piper, man, Dusty Rhodes, just Ox Baker, you name it. It just breaks my heart, you know. And Bruno, man, and Killer, the Killer. You know, I told Joe, I says, you know, the Killer, and it just blew me away. And Bruno, I said, if one of us boys had a chance, and Savoldi almost made it. You know, Savoldi, Angelo, he almost made it. He was 99, 98 or something. But if one of the boys had a chance to reach that century mark, you know, 100 years of living, it's got to be Bruno or it's got to be Kowalski, because they live so clean, man. You know, yeah, they took care of themselves, never smoked, never drank, no drugs, man, and quite a few of us all abused our bodies and abused our whatever, but they didn't, you know. And God bless them, they did make it a real good superior life. One was 82, 183, and man, but guys, if you see somebody, man, you know, I'm talking about anybody, and man, my childhood hero was Hopalong Cassidy, man. You know, hey, if I seen him, I swear to God, I'd went up and start talking to him, because I think I know him. And they're just regular guys, man. Go take a picture with them. Hey, you're not no mark, you're nothing, man. Talk to the peoples, you know, and it's all cool, you know. But, man, I respect all you guys, man. I'm telling you, I respect you. I love you. Hey, New England, I had the best people, you know, best time around here. Captain Lou Albano and Johnny. We stayed at the North End, man, Boston Gardens and Madison Hotel, and brother, the best food up there. And that was a rough area, too. I seen somebody get shot, man. You know, we're coming in one night, man, and I says, man, I can't wait to get across the street. There was a Greek place, and I loved it. I'd get me some hash, some 2 poached eggs on corned beef hash and rye toast. I said, I'm gonna eat that and just go out, man, get up next day, work out and all that, and bop. So there's a revolving door to just, it's right straight across the street from the Madison. So I already had my room. I took my stuff up and freshened up, and I said, Johnny, you want to eat something? No, man, I'm dead. So I'm going myself. So boom. So I'm in the revolving door, and I start going around, and all of a sudden I see a guy with the hat on, man. Yeah, gangster, man. I know, man. A top coat, and he walks by, and I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm still going around, and then here's a big old Cadillac or something. Well, the back window is down, and here's a gun. Boom, 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 boom. I said, whoa. I just went like this. I didn't even get out of the revolving door. I went boom, boom, hit the elevator. All of a sudden I wasn't hungry, man. I said, hey, are they shooting a movie, man, or was that the real deal? And I said, well, hey, if it's the real deal, I don't want to be part of it. And even if it's a movie, I want to be part of it, man. So I just went back up, brother, and I seen that was a rough end at North End, North Station, brother. God bless. One time I ordered my breakfast, because we'd go straight to the garden that afternoon, you know, or some Sundays, and so my food come, and I put it on my desk, and I got the window right behind me, and here's the desk. I already showered and that. I'm just going to eat and then go on to work in the garden. So I'm eating, and all of a sudden I hear, ah! And I look in the mirror, and I see, boom, here a body falls. I said, Lord, man. And I said, oh, geez. And I get up, and I sort of look out, and oh, man, I couldn't look, man. And the guy committed suicide, jumped off the top of the roof, and he landed on the garage part to two floors down. So Captain Lou's right next door to Albino, and Jimmy, let me in. Did you hear something? I said, hey, man, go look, brother. But so he looks, oh, my God, man. So he runs down and tells everybody, bop, bop, bop. And he told me, I seen the whole thing. I didn't see nothing. I just seen the thing go by, But man, I got so many good memories, though, of New England and this whole Witchies. We did Witchies North Attleboro every Friday night, man, and just so many. Oh, right here, man, Providence, Rhode Island. We worked at the Civic Center, man. We worked all over this area, and just loved it and loved all the people. Hey, the greatest wrestling fans in the world right here on New England, baby. Yes, sir. Hey, I love y'all. God bless you, man. Thank you, Big Joe. Hey, thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, Steve, thank you, thank you. God bless you. Woo, Michelle. Yes, sir. Booger Man feel good.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. That closes out the Hall of Fame class of 2018. We'll see each and every one of you back here or somewhere in 2019. On behalf of myself, Joe Boone, and everybody at the Hall of Fame and FanFest 6, thank you so much for being here today and tonight. Enjoy your evening and tip your bartenders accordingly. Good night, everybody.